Hello, and we're live. Hello, and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. I'm your host, Katie Halper, and we have a great show for you guys today. We're going to be talking to Ron Kim, a New York assemblyman who is fighting the good fight, and a way that you know you're fighting the good fight is when Andrew Cuomo threatens you. He does all sorts of great work also, in addition to getting Andrew Cuomo angry, and he's going to be talking to us about the way that Cuomo covered up nursing home deaths. And that's a really important story, and it's getting so little attention. Not the cover-up, but the reasons why he had to cover these numbers up in the first place. And we're also going to be talking to David Sirota, who has done really important investigative journalism work around this very subject. In fact, there's some clips and interviews from earlier this summer where David was talking about why Cuomo was sneaking in some immunity for negligence, and we'll get into that later. But going to bring on my co-host with the host, Leslie Lee. Hello, Leslie.
Hey, how's it going, Kate? Thank you so much for having me back. But I am the co-host.
You are the co-host, yeah.
It's like that thing that Trump said about Elizabeth Warren's husband when she thanked him for coming on her stream. It's the funniest tweet ever where he says, "Why is she thanking him? It's his house. He's supposed to be there."
Yeah, that's very true.
Sometimes
yeah.
I just miss him on Twitter.
I know, he's very funny man. Someone already pointed out I blend into my chair, which is a terrible thing to hear. And I'm going to have to throw something behind me or change my shirt because you don't ever want to blend in. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? Leslie, you're so good at this. Can I leave you will you give me 20 seconds?
No problem.
Yeah, okay.
Take it off. Everyone, welcome to the K Halper Show. I am Leslie III. You may see me on Struggle Session, my podcast. Look at that transition we got going there. I hope that didn't cut my mic off automatically. I was setting up so it cut my mic off as soon as I transition. Hopefully it's not doing that. I don't think I set it up yet. But how y'all doing tonight? I'm doing good. I'm doing very, very good. I'm very happy because... And I'm going to tell Kay, don't tell Kay yet. But you look at my name, I got a couple extra letters behind there. You know, I used to just have the I. And, before my father passed away, he made me promise him that I'm going to get some more letters behind my name. So I got them. I got that M.A. I got M.A. Might have to go get a few more, but that's what we got right now. So very, very... my headphones bleed into my back wall. Okay, let me change my headphones. But yeah, hope y'all are doing great tonight. It's going to be a great show tonight. We have blockbuster guests. This is better than CNN. We got the movers, we got the shakers, we got the people who are changing the world for the better, or at least trying to, on here. David Sirota, Ron Kim. It's absolutely wonderful. Katie will be back in just a second. She has, you guys, the host has to be, right, It's a visual medium. This isn't a podcast, okay? We got to get Katie with the right wardrobe, the right look. And I am noticing that the Katie Halper Show logo is covering up the Struggle Session logo because I am solo on the stream. I may just go ahead, quickly move that around. Here we go. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Beautiful. We still got the beautiful transition. Just Katie will be back, and Katie is back.
Hi, everyone. All right, here's the sad thing about this is that by the way, everyone, please like and share. Like this stream right now. Share, subscribe, as in hit subscribe and then press the bell. And also, I just want to say Leslie's amazing. Do whatever he tells you to do. And I realized I usually wear reds or blacks or navies, and I went from one beigey to another kind of beigey thing. So do I blend in less to my chair, or do I just...
You do blend in less. You do blend in, yes. And, Kay, I was telling them while you were gone that if you notice, I have a couple extra letters behind my name.
Oh, my God. You guys, that is so exciting. Leslie is now a master.
Master. And
that's so cool.
I'm very happy with it. I want to be clear. I'm still a regular Joe like all of you. But I will be lording this over all of my enemies and one person who's not my enemy in particular. He is, I think we're head to head with him right now. And that's Chris Hayes. I love Chris Hayes. I used to. I used to really love Chris Hayes. I thought.
And this does not represent anyone else on the show, by the way. Leslie speaks for himself, and his having a master's does not make him have any more authority.
Yes, okay. But I do want to say I do have authority on Chris Hayes because I am I used to think he was the smartest guy in the world, but now I got one up on him. Now I got one up on Chris Hayes. So I don't know. Do you want to watch the evening news show with the guy without the masters or the guy with the masters? You can't beat the Katie Halper show. She's bringing the best people in the world.
I am. So, yeah. So, that's all I'm saying is that I'm very happy for you, and I can't believe it. I mean, honestly, it's almost worth as much as a KH after your name, which is what you get when you're a CHKH, co-host of the Katie Halper show. So, yeah. Well, yes, thank you so much, and everyone. The reason that I'm being a little bit frazzled as opposed to my usual very centered self is because I came in from getting my vaccine, and so I had to reset up, and anyway, it's a big thing. We'll get into that later. We're going to get into not fancier, I don't want to say that. This is the official, it's the master's program half of the show. And we're going to be talking to an assemblyman and a journalist, and then we're going to take a little break, and that's when Leslie and I can talk more about my personal life, my getting a vaccine, nothing exciting in my personal life, but just, whatever. We may see a dog later on, a Bodhi appearance, and then we're going to watch we're going to do a binge watching, a clip watching of some Biden responses to the town hall. But let's get to the master's program of the evening and bring on Assemblyman Ron Kim, as well as journalist David Sirota. Hello.
Hey there.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. You both are, it does kind of come full circle. I got my vaccine today, and, I do live in New York State, and so...
I'm jealous that you got your vaccine.
Yeah, you haven't gotten it yet?
No.
Wow.
I haven't gotten it. No. Ron, have you gotten it?
I have not.
Yeah, we're unvaccinated. High five.
Wow. Leslie?
Well, no, not yet. No.
Wow. So I'm, you have MA, but I have VA. Vaccinated, yeah.
Vaccinated,
yeah.
Yes. Well, that's very fortunate for you, but,
No one wants to know why?
Oh, why?
You think I'm just lording? It's not like I dropped it. People don't know I'm the host of the Katie Halper show when I try to get the vaccine. Yeah. No, because I have. Okay, David, you're probably with me on this, or a lot of our relatives are. I have asthma.
Yes. I have anxiety.
Oh, okay, that's the other.
Does that qualify?
Yes, yeah. Anxiety, asthma, any of those.
Or as I call it, I also I have early onset OJMS.
What's OJMS?
Had it it's a very serious condition, old Jewish man syndrome.
Oh,
early onset. Bad stomach, anxiety, sometimes dark phases of a little bit of depression, sort of being overly OCD.
Yes.
Those are all the symptoms of early onset old Jewish man syndrome.
FOF, fear of fascism, perhaps.
Totally.
And and also, I think that you were follicularly ahead of your time in terms of the shade of your hair, which is very nice.
Yes.
You
early
grayed
onset,
early.
Gray hair, 10, 15 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Really,
it's a good look, though.
Yeah.
Gotta embrace
thank
it.
you. I appreciate it.
It looks good. So almost as important as this, and anything you would like to share, Ron, about yourself, you're an elected official, you may not want to share any kind of neuroses that you have, and I'm sure you don't have them anyway, but if there's anything interesting you want to tell us about yourself.
I am getting my gray hair, David. I know you. How old are you? 38 now? 39?
No, I'm 45.
45?
Yeah.
Okay.
45.
No, I'm definitely catching up with the gray hair now. Especially this week, my wife walked up. Was like, "Did you just get your hair just turned gray one day?"
So true story, and I feel like I can tell this story that people listening will appreciate it. I happened to go gray in the final year that I was working for the Center for American Progress. When I was working, true story. When I was working for the Center for American Progress, and I was actually in a kind of low-grade conflict with them when I was putting out stuff about Joe Biden's bankruptcy bill, and they didn't want me to, and it was a highly stressful experience. And
Wow.
this is the permanent effect of that.
So so it's Biden's fault, right? Like I don't know if y'all seen Twin Peaks. I'm wearing a Twin Peaks shirt now, but there's a scene where a guy confronts like this ultimate evil, and his hair immediately turns all white.
Yes, it's Joe Biden's fault that I went early gray. That's
Wow.
exactly right. True story.
Wow. Well, yeah, he'll probably be able to hook you up with something. If you go to one of his town halls, I'm sure you can ask him about it.
Yeah.
But Assemblyman Kim, please tell us why you're especially stressed out these days. Also, one thing, you have very cute daughters. I saw you at a Bernie
Oh, that's right. That's
Queens
right.
at the Queens rally, and your daughters are adorable. So
And you sent me some pictures.
I did, yeah,
Yes, yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, they're so cute.
That was some rally.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I wish I could go back to that moment.
I know, yeah.
Such an amazing speech. And AOC showed up.
Yeah.
That was yeah. I mean, it's a stressful week.
Yeah,
We've,
yes.
within 1 week, they try to rope me into Cuomo's world of lies multiple times, privately, on a phone call, publicly, and then we exposed, everything. And within a week, it just happened so quickly, right? Like they had his top aide. We had a private meeting with 6 lawmakers, and then she accidentally told the truth. She slipped. It was like in that movie A Few Good Men, when with Jack Nicholson, Tom Cruise. I was actually thinking of that movie when this was going down. Like, she had all the scripts. They're going the scripts. The commissioner, there's the commissioner, all the excuses, and my colleagues are like, well, just keep interrupting. That's not true. Like, what happened here? What happened here? And all of a sudden, she's like, you want the truth? I will tell you the truth.
Really? Did she say something comparable?
That's what something very similar.
Got it, yeah.
Yeah, you can take it or leave it. This is the truth, nothing but the truth. And then she goes into saying that there was political football and we didn't know what data to give because it was going to be used against Andrew Cuomo. And everyone was like texting. It was a virtual phone call, right? So people were texting, did she just commit? Did she just incriminate herself? Like, all the red flags went up. And in that moment, it was no longer a private discussion. She incriminated all of us in that moment.
So can you set this up a little bit? You're in a private meeting. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So this was the meeting to go over a list of questions that we submitted at an August oversight hearing around nursing home deaths 6.5 months ago. They were supposed to get back to us in 2 weeks. Stonewalled, nothing, no communication. And then there's Attorney General drops a bombshell report in January. All the stuff, David, you and I talked about, validated in a report on legal immunity, the underreporting, the profit motives. She just dropped this report. And I got a report. They called me at 8 a.m. that morning when I got the report. And I cried a little bit because I felt like David and I were the only ones like screaming and people weren't paying attention. And that report came, and that led to them being forced to release all the numbers. And before they did that, they gathered us for a private meeting, trying to alleviate the tension. We're going to do this. We're going to answer all your questions now. In the middle of a 2-hour session, the Secretary of the State had that moment where she actually accidentally told the truth.
And David, from your perspective, can you talk a little bit about how you found out about, how you even knew that Cuomo had snuck this immunity into the budget? Like, how did you even, I don't even know, were you just looking through budgets, or how did it happen?
Well, look, so legislators, Ron Kim being one of them, we're trying to sound the alarm about this. And to be frank, the budget passed in April, in which Cuomo put this corporate immunity provision into the law. And it took a couple weeks to for people to wake up to it, because, it's a giant budget bill. It funds the whole state government in a very big state. People like Ron were sounding the alarm. We reported out the story based on, Ron pointing us to it. And we did our own independent reporting on it. And, I think everybody needs to understand just how extreme the measure was that was put into the state budget. And just as an aside, having to slip it into a state budget instead of passing it as a standalone bill, granted, like that may be tradition, but what that ends up preventing is a sort of fully aired out public debate. In other words, that wasn't an accident. If you want to put really nasty things into law, you one tactic would be to put it into a giant 5,000 page bill, a moving train kind of bill, a must pass bill, so that the whole debate is about the entire state budget. It isn't about your one provision. Now, so the point in saying that is that it sort of creates the idea of motive here. In other words, what's put into that bill, the provisions like this, it's not an accident that they're kind of buried in the fine print. And in the case of this immunity bill, what we learned was that the major group that pushed this bill, that in fact said and touted and bragged that it drafted the provision, was one of Andrew Cuomo's top donors. More than $2 million of money from this group, the Greater New York Hospital Association and its lobby firms, flowed to Cuomo's political machine in about the year and a half leading up to this situation. And then that group, the Greater New York Hospital Association, bragged that it had drafted a provision that the Cuomo administration put into this giant budget bill, really slipped into this giant budget bill. And here's what the provision said, and this is why it's so important to look at the actual language, which is to say that the language said that not only are frontline physicians, nurses, frontline healthcare workers granted a level of significant immunity from potential lawsuits from people who feel like they were mistreated or families whose family members were killed during COVID because of bad business practices. It actually then also explicitly said that the corporate executives, board members, and other corporate officials of the nursing homes, the nursing home companies, they are also immune. They are also shielded from potential lawsuits. And as the New York Attorney General's report has now subsequently said, and what we reported at the time was, what that does is that removes a deterrent to corporate malfeasance. That the threat of private lawsuits is the major deterrent to a corporate executive who maybe runs a nursing home, who's thinking, I can provide spend extra money to provide adequate staffing, protective equipment, and all sorts of other safety measures. I can spend adequate money to increase those protections, or I can maximize profits. I can cost cut to maximize profits in ways that potentially jeopardize people's lives. That a threat of a lawsuit is the deterrent to making the unsafe decision. And that when you effectively, preemptively immunize the corporate executives from potential lawsuits, you are saying to them that the decisions you make to maximize your company's profits that may endanger elderly people, may endanger, frankly, frontline healthcare workers themselves, that those decisions, you will not have to worry about facing consequences. And so that's why this is so important. This is not a technical issue, right? If your older family member is in a nursing home, you should want the corporate executive who is making those kinds of corporate decisions to have to fear legal consequences if they make decisions that endanger your family member's life. And that's what Cuomo slipped into the budget, which was to say to those corporate executives, at the behest of his big donor, you don't have to worry about those consequences.
Yeah,
And
sorry.
no.
I just thought that was a really brilliant point, because usually people get caught up in they're getting immunity because they're just greedy corporate people. But no, that disincentivizes them to doing their job, and people's lives are on the line. I mean, we talk about moral hazard all the time, where we talk about giving people like health insurance and stuff. I can't think of a bigger moral hazard than saying a bunch of corporations who are in charge of the life and death of thousands of people, and saying, you know what, you're not going to be held responsible for anything that happens.
And the amazing thing is, and Ron, you should talk about it, which is that Ron put out a report after the immunity provision was slipped into the law. He put out a report detailing the potential effects of this in his effort, as we reported, to try to repeal the immunity. And Ron, tell him about what you found in that report.
Yeah, we did 3 total reports. In the first report we published in May, we gathered all the data around the country, and looked at all the states that had similar provisions of legal immunity. New York being the golden standard, the worst of its kind. And there were about 20 states that had that, and 77% of all the fatalities came from those 20 states. The states with the worst legal immunity, the highest number of deaths. So we proved early that there's a direct correlation, especially in a place like New York, when it's 65% of the industry are for-profits. For-profits. These are private for-profit corporations. They have a fiduciary duty at every quarter to report back to the shareholders profits. And those are the people that Governor Cuomo gave a legal immunity, and we called it out. And we'll get into why the cover-up is now tied deeply into this. And that's really the core of the cover-up. Because if we had real-time information and data, we would have been able to repeal legal immunity. I had a bill, a bunch of senators pushed for it. We were now getting it out there, but all of a sudden, the data decreased by 50%. Or I don't know exactly when, I think around May or June, they decoupled people who died from hospitals and from nursing home residents. So think about what they did. So if you're a nursing home resident and you're sick and you're transferred to a hospital and died in a hospital, they stopped counting that death toward nursing home residents. So all of a sudden the numbers decreased by 50%. New York doesn't look that bad. They're like, oh, we're number 38. He kept saying that on the press conference. But I'm like, Governor, that's not right. Give us all the data. You have it. Excuse after excuse. The software doesn't match up. The hospital number, the initials doesn't match up. The number of lies that went in to cover that up was amazing. And that's why they covered it up, because if we had the data, we would have legislated and gotten our repealing the immunity retroactively, and that would have impacted his business donors that supported his campaigns in the past.
So what they do, right, is that when they're kind of cornered, his appointee, is it what she's the, I forgot her position, the woman.
Secretary of the government.
Secretary, okay, Secretary of State, Secretary of Governor.
Secretary, it's what's it technically called, Ron?
Secretary to the governor. She's the second highest ranking
Okay.
appointed person in the state.
So the secretary to the governor, when she's cornered, she says, "Oh, we didn't want to give the numbers because we didn't want Trump to attack us and use that to not give us resources and funds." So what is your response to that claim?
Well, we were texting, like, because we realized what just happened. And we also had outside observers. We were allowed to have one staff member to observe the meeting. So we're just trying to, and then the meeting continued. That was, we had another hour after that. But right up to that moment, Katie, it was because they're giving us the same excuses. And my colleagues were like, not good enough, not good enough. Enough with your bullshit. I don't want to hear it. Can I curse? I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. and then Melissa is like, you want the truth. This is what happened. And then she went off for about a minute and a half, admitting that there was a cover-up. The first time they admitted that there was a cover-up. They took away my right to legislate. I have a job to do. I have the job to protect my constituents, and by not disclosing the data, I couldn't do my job to save my people who died unnecessarily in the last 10 months.
Yeah. And can you talk about, David, you want to respond to that? I haven't followed.
No, I mean, Ron's exactly right. The only thing I would say is that, the argument from Cuomo's aides can be both right. They can speak a political truth, but they are not a legal truth. By that I mean, the quote from Melissa DeRosa, Cuomo's top aide, was when asked by the legislators, why did you not release this information? Was, quote, we froze because then we were in a position where we weren't sure if what we were going to give to the Department of Justice or what we were going to give to you guys, she's speaking to the legislators, to you guys, what we start saying was going to be used against us while we weren't sure if there was going to be an investigation. Now, it's the point I would make is that it's certainly true that the top of Trump's Justice Department was politicized. But so it's true that a politicized Justice Department may be more inclined to use a politicized Republican-run Justice Department may be more inclined to use incriminating information against a Democratic governor. But that's not a legal rationale for withholding information from that Justice Department or from state legislators. That's obstruction of justice. Like you can't just run into court and be like, "Hey, I didn't give up the information because the prosecutor was mean or was going to be mean to me." Like that's not a rationale. Like that's not a legal rationale. Even though again, you can stipulate that it may be politically true that Donald Trump's Justice Department is politicized. It still is not a legal rationale for saying we're not going to release information about a death toll in nursing homes in our state, right? Like that is almost classic obstruction of justice kind of behavior. And the point about the context here is that in the context of withholding the information at a time when you are doing the bidding of your donor who has asked you to give corporate immunity to nursing home executives. We're going to give nursing homes a liability shield from lawsuits about nursing home deaths, while we're also going to hide and withhold nursing home death information from public officials, right? It's like you put the data points on a table and it starts to look like motive. Now, was that the only motive? We don't know. Was part of the motive that Cuomo himself just didn't want to look like he was overseeing an absolute disaster while he was promoting a book, while he was being on CNN, giving kind of a recurring slot. He was getting an Emmy. He was the media golden boy. I mean, all these things maybe it was all those things at once. But the point is that you have the withholding of information plus the motive of you're doing the bidding of your huge donor who wants to immunize, to grant a liability shield to the executives in the middle of this, right? That's the definition of not acting in the public interest.
Right. That's the irony. It's like, it's not a legal excuse, obviously, but it's also hard to take it seriously as like, oh, you're really just cutting out all corners, whatever you can do to save lives. Like, no, that's obviously, and at the same time, you're coincidentally giving immunity. And the irony of the word immunity in this context, when we're talking about a virus also, is just like kind of striking. But I thought that also kind of, I don't know if she planned this. Like, I don't know if she planned to say, oh, we were protecting ourselves from Trump weaponizing this information. But it was so perfect because I've said this a bunch on this show and on Useful Idiots with Matt Taibbi. And that like the difference between, well, there are many differences between Trump and Cuomo. But the only thing that Cuomo needed to do to be turned into a hero was not say something like inject bleach into your lungs and sound rational, right? And sound in control. And that was it. And it actually is kind of true. And it also speaks to the way that the "but Trump" framing was so dangerous because it was literally anything that's not Trump is permissible or better than the alternative. And this is a case where, no, like this wasn't, this is stuff that people would expect from Trump and would rightly condemn Trump for. But it's someone who's a Democrat who, tends to be good on social issues. By the way, we should definitely cut in here later if we edit this into something shorter. But Cuomo saying, as a New Yorker, I'm a Jew. I'm a gay man. I'm a lesbian. I'm black. Leslie, do you know about this? Your face didn't have that. Yeah, yeah, we'll find it later and we'll put it in. He said it multiple times. Anyway, it's really good. He deserved that Emmy, guys. He deserved it because I believed him. And he deserved that Emmy because he was able to trick people for so long about, being much, much, much better than Trump.
Well, it's easy to trick people when your brother is on national news for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, another
pretty
conflict
easy
of interest. Yeah, And you, Ron, experienced this personally too, right? You lost your uncle. Can you talk about that?
No, yeah, I did. So in the middle of trying to support my constituents who reached out to me, they had loved ones in the nursing homes in April. This was we didn't talk about the March 25th order, where he mandated up to 9,000 COVID positives into nursing homes for almost 2 months while he was giving out legal immunity. So at the very peak of that, as you can imagine, people were reaching out and saying, I can't get access. I know that this place is understaffed and my mom is behind there and she's getting exposed to COVID. I was outside of a nursing home fighting and talking to social media. I think the New York Times has shown up because I was trying to expose what was going on. And right at that time, when I'm fighting for my constituents, my uncle got ill and he died in a matter of days of presumed COVID. And, he was the reason why I'm here today. So he is the reason why my parents were able to immigrate here. He sponsored our visa. He was a veteran, and he was a U.S. Army captain, and he was a dentist. The only thing that I would say is that he was also a Republican, one of the first Korean American Republicans in Queens
Wow.
ever, and he was a big fan of Ronald Reagan. Hence the name Ron. He
Oh
gave
my
me my name,
gosh.
and
Wow.
ironically, I'm spending my entire adult career undoing every
Right.
fucking thing that Reagan has ever done. So that's my story
That's
about
nice.
my uncle. But for him to die alone in pain, because I know if you read about it, you heard the stories, but it's not an easy process when you can't breathe and your lungs are going out and you're asking to go. People are asking to die because it's too painful. And with no funeral in sight, there's 15,000 other people who have to go through similar experiences. So that's what happened to my uncle. And yeah, and after that, we've continued to fight, but eventually it just became overwhelming. And that's when we started talking to Dave, trying to expose what was going on with legal immunity. And he broke one of the first earliest stories. It was a blockbuster story. It was reported out in a number of the Daily Poster, the Guardian, a number of stories that tied everything together. And that's what really started this whole thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I saw, I heard you on the Brian Lehrer show, Ron, and you mentioned the immunity thing, and Brian Lehrer was kind of like, oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. I didn't even put that into the introduction, because something that's kind of not surprising, sadly, but is infuriating, is that no one's really mentioning this. Like, you see people finally kind of talking about the story. It's just like too shocking and significant, just on a numbers level to ignore. But they're not bringing up the potential ulterior motive that Cuomo had. Have you seen that penetrate at all? I mean, obviously Daily Poster, which is a great site, which everyone should support, but are other people picking this up?
Yeah, and at the time we had other like Associated Press started reporting on it. The New York Times did a piece, but Cuomo had a narrative, and he just hid all the numbers and came up with all these excuses. And at a point where David knows, I published 3 reports and nothing was being done. So like my staff and I put a package together and dropped it off to the United Nations at some point, saying there is a violation of human rights going on here. People are dying, and there is there's a crime against humanity that we have to document this for our history. And I was at that point. My staff thought they thought I was losing it. But I honestly felt like I saw the truth. It's like the allegory of the cave. I felt like, I saw light, and then everyone else is in the cave, and everyone else is trying to destroy me because I'm telling them, hey, there's light here, come out. That's literally how I felt with David and a few select lawmakers for months.
Yeah, for people who don't know the allegory of the cave, it's just the Matrix. It's like when Neo gets out of the Matrix. It's literally the exact same thing.
Yeah. So save your, don't worry about
Yeah,
that.
and I like people thought you were losing it. Like somebody should be losing it. How can you see what's happening
Yeah.
now and not lose your mind? I don't know. I I don't know. Like, there's been so much suffering, so much death, and the people who are supposed to be in charge of, helping us and stopping this are lying, covering their own asses, recording, writing books and selling books in the middle of it. In the middle of it. Imagine,
Yeah,
like in the
yeah.
middle of World War II, like Churchill is like writing a memoir and putting it out. Like, it just completely mind boggling.
So it really is, and it's like what can be done now? I mean, this highlights so many things, including obviously why it's so immoral to have a private, a for-profit healthcare system. But what can be done in terms of nursing homes being, so many of them being privatized? What can be done in terms of Cuomo? And then, last thing, tell us, of course, what he said to you. Maybe that can be the transition.
Yeah. So going back, so a few months down the line, so last week, after that private meeting, the news broke of what happened, and an hour later, after the news broke, I get a call around 8 p.m. on last Thursday evening, 7:54 p.m. I remember the time, and my wife was there. I'm trying to bathe my three girls. I get a generic governor's number on the phone, and I thought it was just like a press office. I pick up, and they said, "Hold on, I got the governor on the line for you." First time ever he's ever called me. I met him. I hung out with him. I had dinner with him at his house once. First time calling me on the phone. And then there's like a lot of silence for like 5 seconds. I was like, "Governor, Governor," and the first words that came out, it was, "Mr. Kim, are you an honorable man?" Like, I was like, what is that? Like, I was like, what does that even mean? Like, and then he just went off for 10 minutes and berating me how he'll, ruin my life, go out into the public and just take me down if I basically don't issue a statement that night, as he outlined. You didn't hear that because you're not a lawyer, you don't have a law degree, so you misheard it. This is what she said, and this is what you're gonna write, and this is what you're gonna tell the speaker's office to submit to the papers. That was the gist of it, and obviously that was the second time in 1 week they tried to implicate me into the cover up. The first time was in the meeting. Now this time he's asking me to cover up the cover up. That's the reason why I came forward. If he wants to just have a shouting match, and call me names, I can probably go into a corner and just, take it or just curse back and just hang up and that's it. But the moment he crossed that line and asked me to do something unethical, plus the screaming and the terrorizing in front of my family, that was beyond acceptable, and I had to speak up because it wasn't just me. So many New Yorkers, New York politicals that went through similar situations, staff members of his administration started texting, calling members saying thank you, like because they're too afraid to speak up. But they're saying, "I have to deal with this for years. Thank you for speaking up."
Wow. Well, thank you, by the way, for speaking up. And what's next? What can be done? What needs to be done?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a process to hold him accountability. The minimum, we have to protect the integrity of the Senate and the Assembly. That means we have to take away his powers to make sure that we can hold him accountable. That's next. But my job as the aging chair is still policy. I want to go back and undo everything that he's done that has led to more unnecessary deaths. Legal immunity is the top of it. During the budget, he cut 20% Medicaid. In the middle of a pandemic, he cut 20% of Medicaid. So we need
Yeah.
a just budget. I'm not talking about a flat budget. We need to invest in our New York, meaning really like forget the austerity budgets. This is the time to invest in home care, nurses, all the stuff that have been cut for 10 years underneath his austerity mindset. So that's the next big step for New Yorkers.
And David, do you have anything as a non-New Yorker, but as a,
Well, look, I mean, I think the other context for this is I think that the consequence of New York's immunity law cannot be overstated, not just in New York, but outside of New York. that New York's immunity laws, we reported, became the template for other states' their own nursing home immunity laws. That in some cases, states literally copied word for word New York's early nursing home immunity law, a law to shield nursing home executives and hospital executives, that became word for word a template for other states. And in fact, word for word, it was inserted into the Senate Republicans' corporate liability legislation. Like, I'm talking about copy paste, like Control C, Control V, from Andrew Cuomo's law into Mitch McConnell's proposal. And we reported that out. And so the point is that one thing on top of what can be done is that everyone needs to understand, no matter where you live, there are, I think, 20 plus states that have now put on their books laws that grant immunity to nursing home executives during this pandemic, immunity for corporate decisions that potentially endanger nursing home residents' lives. And so what can be done is, like, everybody who's watching this, listening to this, should see if their state is on the list. Because if you have somebody who in your family who's in a nursing home, they are potentially in a nursing home that is run by corporate executives and ultimately parent corporations that may potentially, if they're in one of those 20 plus states, that may know that they won't face the threat of a lawsuit if they make a decision to understaff the place, if they make a decision to not have adequate PPE. So this truly is a national issue. And, you know, we have to understand that it started in New York, that Ron's story is not just a story of New York, it's a story for the whole country.
And how can people find that out, by the way?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. There's no one comprehensive place to find out all of the states. Although, if I'm remembering our 2 stories ago, if you go to our reporting at the Daily Poster, we have linked to a couple of charts that show which states have put some form of corporate immunity on their books. And I think the other general point is that when you hear about liability protections, that phrase, liability protections, liability shields, you know, the Republicans screaming about lawsuits, what they are screaming about is the threat of private actors being able to hold private corporations accountable when the government refuses to. That's the thing that I think people miss in every debate, frankly, about liability reform, tort reform, quote unquote, is that nobody likes to face a lawsuit, right? Like nobody wants to have to face a lawsuit. That's really, you know, nobody wants that. But the reason why it's a societal value is because when the government refuses to enforce the law, when the administrative agencies refuse to enforce the law, at least there is a threat that if a company doesn't follow the law, that a private actor, a customer, a nursing home resident, et cetera, can essentially ask the courts to enforce the law themselves. When you take that away, and then you add that liability shield situation to a government in which public officials are often working for their campaign donors, then you're essentially taking away any deterrent for corporations to engage ethically. You're saying there's not really going to be a punishment for corporations to trample people. That's why this is so important. It's kind of a conceptual issue, but if you think about it in terms of deterrent, like if you're running a nursing home and you know, like, hey, I know I got, you know, Cuomo, I've given him a lot of money, so his agencies aren't going to really enforce the law on me. But, you know, I still got to worry about the family members of the people who were staying in the nursing home. I still got to worry that I may get sued by them. So I still better follow the law, even though I got, you know, maybe I got Andrew Cuomo and the New York, you know, officials, I got them in my pocket. I still got to worry that, like, I may face a class action lawsuit. When you take away that fear, then it's like you can do whatever you want. And, like, I wouldn't want my family member living in a nursing home in which the corporation that runs the nursing home thinks it can do whatever it wants to my family member.
Yeah.
Yeah, Katie. So, I mean, one thing that we forgot to mention was that we did able to repeal a part of that immunity provision in July, and we couldn't do that without all the reporting, all the things that came out of the Daily Poster and other articles following that from the New York Times and everything else. So we were able to prove that with all that thing, all the light that we shone on this issue, that they had to act, but they only modified prospectively after the bill was signed, and only a part of the nursing home immunity. Not, and we pushed for retroactive because what they did in the original bill when they passed it April 2nd, they went back retroactive to March, beginning of March, and gave immunity for COVID and non-COVID patients in hospitals and nursing home residents. So if you were a patient and you were being treated in early March and something bad happened to you doing a regular surgery, and your right to sue and have recourse was retroactively taken away from you.
What? Wow. So it's even worse than, wow. It's like so many levels of sordid. And really quickly before you guys leave, and I really am so grateful to you for your time, a couple comments and questions from the chat. A long story short says, please about the ambulance, I think please ask about the ambulance scandal. Some ambulances were forbidden to take patients to Javits Center or the SS Comfort. That is why they were underused. I don't know if either of you knows about that. And then a really important point here, which is that, and I couldn't agree with this more, and it's why, one of the reasons why Daily Post are so important. John Michael writes, they thought they would get away with it because they knew the mainstream media would not ask any questions and figured the Democrat state legislature would go along. Thank God for Ron Kim and shows like this. And Daily Poster and Dave Sirota.
Thank you. Murphy also
Leslie,
said thank you as well with a $99
wow.
super chat.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Murphy. Wow. Thank you all. Yeah. And, obviously I'm always encouraging people to give to the, Patreon for the show. And Leslie does too. But also make sure that you look at, Daily Poster is so good. We should do a weekly poster or a monthly poster, David, where we come and do a breakdown of your stories.
Would love that.
Yeah. And our caller, Mr. Kim, I'm so sorry for how you've been treated. I was a CNA for 3 years in an LTC long-term care facility. Gov Cuomo was shameful, bullied. I've let this happen. Yeah, terrible.
It's really so disheartening because these places are so important, and they're going to be more important coming up because this is something I lived in Japan for a few years, and like the population there is really aging, less people having less children, so there's going to be a lot of old people. In Japan, they don't have as many long-term care facilities. Most people live with their family, but in America, like there's similar trends that's happening, and a lot of people are going to be in these facilities, and this is how we're like starting off. We're saying if there's a pandemic, then like nothing, like you don't get any protections. They can do whatever they want to you.
Yeah, Leslie, Katie, I gotta hop off, but I just can I finish on that thought because
course,
this
yeah.
is something that I actually brought up in the hearing 2 weeks ago with governor's commissioner who was testifying, which is that we have an ageist society and we have ageism that permeates in our culture. And people know about, we have addressed sexism since the 70s, and racism is institutionally addressed, but we do not do enough with ageist languages and ageism that is in our culture. As you can see, when governor has press conferences, he talks about, well, who cares if they died? Oh, who cares whether they're going to die anyways? I mean, that's the type of language that normalizes ageism against older adults, and saying that when you almost making us think that when you go to nursing homes, you're getting ready to die anyways. That's the kind of culture that we do have. So it is systemic, and it is cultural that I think we need to also have deeper discussions around. But policy obviously comes first that can fix that. So we have a lot of work to do. Katie, thank you so much.
Thank you
Leslie,
so much.
nice
Yeah.
meeting you.
Well, it's good to see you, man.
Thank you guys so much. Yeah.
Keep up the
care.
courage.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Bye.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye. We'll have to find that I'll ask him about the ambulances another time. Do you know about that, David, by any chance?
I've heard a little bit about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, so we'll look into it. For you, we'll look into it. Anything else you want to say? I mean, again, thank you so much for your time.
No,
It's
I'm
been
really
great.
glad. I really appreciate you, giving Ron the chance to speak and us the chance to talk about our reporting.
Yeah.
The corporate immunity thing is to
So
me
scary.
is the center of the story. And I think Cuomo has been relying on people thinking it's just some sort of esoteric conceptual issue, but it's actually it's like the issue.
Yeah.
It's the issue. That plus the money tells a story about what's really at play here. And I think it's incredible that there's two things that's incredible. It's incredible it's taken this long for people to and the media to kind of key in on it, but it's also incredible that like the national media is sort of finally keying into it, and Andrew Cuomo is sort of having to answer some questions. I mean, I think this is almost a classic situation in which a guy has been in power for so long and doesn't think he, is kind of an imperious, doesn't think he ever has to answer questions kind of situation. And he's finally kind of like deer in the headlights having to actually answer the most basic questions. It's really pathetic that it took this long for him to have to answer any questions, but you know what? Better late than never.
Yeah. I just want to, maybe we can, as a signing off, I think we should all watch this because I just think it's really inspiring. And this is, of course, as I mentioned, one of Cuomo's very moving intersectional solidaristic statements. So I'm just going to play this.
I'm disabled.
Okay, hold on.
As a New Yorker, I am a Muslim. As a New Yorker, I am Jewish. As a New Yorker, I am black. I am gay. I am disabled. I am a woman seeking to control her health and her choices because as a New Yorker, we are one community. As a New Yorker.
So, at the end of the day, yeah.
It's so creepy. It's just,
Yeah.
So, it's so creepy. I mean, that should
like
just
really
be his
Terminator-ish.
response. What'd you say?
It's
Terminator?
really
Yeah.
it's like Terminator-ish. It's like somebody's got to tweak the programming on the back computer panel on his on his back.
It would be amazing to see him enter that like as a legal plea.
Yeah, I mean, to be frank, I don't hold out a huge amount of hope that he's going to be held fully accountable. I think it's incredible that he's even being held sort of media accountable momentarily. But he's clearly a guy who's banked on never being actually held accountable.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that if you actually think about the analog, it's kind of incredible. And I tweeted this today. It was like Elliot Spitzer took on Wall Street in the same office. And Elliot Spitzer had to, felt forced to resign amid a personal sex scandal. Andrew Cuomo presided over 15,000 nursing home deaths while he helped his donor grant a liability shield
So disgusting.
for nursing home executives. 15,000 people died, and he's still in office. So you had one governor who felt he had to resign over a personal sex scandal. You have another governor who feels he can just sort of stay in office and not face any consequences for 15,000 people dying on his watch while he's helping his donor grant immunity to the nursing home executives, and he's hiding the information about those deaths. Like, if you really step back at the 20,000, 50,000 foot view, you're like, wow. Like,
Yeah. And that was he saw what would we now call sex work, like an escort. This is Spitzer, right? This was not
Right.
a case of sexual assault, sexual harassment. This was not a Lincoln Project story. This was
No,
a
but
guy
it
having.
speaks
but
to the
that's
power
the thing.
dynamic.
Yeah, that's so basically
if you
have
go up
blood on your
against Wall
hands.
Street,
Right.
if
Yes.
you go up against Wall Street and you do anything wrong, you got to resign.
Right.
If you side with power, in this case, the big healthcare industry, granted, Cuomo is facing scrutiny, but like he's still in office. Like,
Yeah.
there's just a different set of standards for you. And
Yeah.
I mean, it goes to this larger culture of impunity in America that we've created, where we talk a lot. There's a lot of rhetoric about law and order and getting tough on crime and all that stuff. But you know what? If you're siding with power, you can potentially get away with 15,000 elderly people dying while you're giving the nursing home executives a shield from lawsuits and hiding the information. You can get away with that and stay in office. I mean, my hope is that dynamic changes, that we're finally at a turning point where it's like, actually, you can't get away with that. You got to go. That's actually a much bigger crime than a sex scandal. I mean, without getting to the details of Spitzer and all. But like the point is that like
that's an important part of
as a societal matter, the death of 15,000 people is a bigger deal than what happened with Elliot Spitzer.
Yeah, it's true. And I can't help but thinking that Trump is gone, guys. Okay, Trump is not here. We actually need to still be fighting against Trumpism, obviously. But why don't we now? Well, I know the answer, but imagine if MSNBC, certainly CNN can't really do it, but if they looked into this stuff, right? Like all the people who pretend to be, liberals, not like Trump, okay, you probably don't want your grandparents, your parents to be killed, to be to be allowed to die because of a corporate bottom line. So this should be a national scandal. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So. And the last thing I'll say on it is that you better believe this isn't only happening in New York.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is in those states that Ron talked about, states that passed similar immunity laws after New York passed their laws. I mean, you better believe that there's been some terrible things that have happened in those states. And to be clear, look, the pandemic is not Andrew Cuomo's fault, right? It's not his fault, right? People are going to die in the pandemic, and that is a tragedy. So it's not to say that every single horrible story is his fault. It's not. But it is to say that if not having immunity would have reduced the death toll, let's say by 10%. How about 20%? 20% of 15,000 is 3,000 people. That's 3,000 human beings. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
And we have to, I think we're living now in a moment where these numbers are so big that it's hard to process, but that's 15% of those nursing home residents who died is more than the number of New Yorkers, I think, who died on 9/11.
Yeah.
Right? That's a huge number of people.
Yeah.
Right? So think about the reaction that we had to 9/11 versus the reaction that we kind of had to the nursing home situation. And it's not to make a value judgment, but it's just to say that, 9/11, we literally had a $1 trillion war. We went to a war, a whole societal reorientation, the war on terror. Ask yourself, why hasn't the response been similar to this? And part of the answer has to do with the power dynamic in America.
Which would mean, if really for the response to be similar, would require that we go and invade the governor's mansion in
the New York Department of Health.
Well, no, in New Jersey or something, or Massachusetts, because obviously just to trace back the WMD relationship to Afghanistan, Iraq, Afghanistan, all that. Yeah, You're welcome, everyone. Well, David, thank you again so much, and really, last thing, if you could just maybe thread the needle here. If you'd like a sentence, because I know you wrote a piece about this, but about the connection between this story, which on its face seems very different, this story and the Lincoln Project.
Sure. The only point that was made in that piece was it's an important point, which is that the media tends to build up many of the people and institutions that are at the center of our problems. In the Lincoln Project situation, it's very similar to Cuomo. The Lincoln Project was populated by Republican operatives who created most of the problems that they then suddenly purported to be the solutions to those problems in order to make themselves, to rake in $90 million, $50 million of which went into their own political consulting firms. And at the time that was happening, the media the national media, kept presenting them, that was key to their strategy, as credible experts on protecting the democracy that they had spent 20 or 30 years trying to destroy. Right? I mean, their whole premise, if you actually thought about it for more than 1 second, was that arsonists are the best people to put out fires that they themselves created. Right? And the media created that. And big shocker, at the end of the day, right-wing Republicans ended up being, guess what? Right-wing Republicans.
Right.
Their organization was, completely unethical. They had all sorts of scandals. And then when the scandals were exposed at the Lincoln Project, they reverted right to form by trying to intimidate people from speaking out. right? And
Right.
everyone's like, I can't believe this. Why would this group do what? They're right-wing Republicans. I mean,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
founder of the Lincoln Project has been bragging even recently that he led the campaign to put Sam Alito and John Roberts on the Supreme Court. Like, these are the defenders of democracy? No, that was a business model
Right.
designed to tell liberals, essentially, they saw a business opportunity. And the reason the Cuomo situation and the Lincoln Project situation are connected is that they were both creations of a media that didn't want to ask questions, that wanted a star or a set of stars and didn't want to ask questions. And, when finally the charade couldn't cover up the reality, it's a moment for us to step back and say, you know what, why aren't we asking these questions in real time? Like, why do we have to wait for things to get absurd, ridiculous, and terrible for a media to ask questions that are very obvious in real time? Like 8 months ago, people should have been asking questions. Why is Andrew Cuomo trying to immunize or grant a corporate liability shield to nursing home executives? And also the death toll in nursing homes is high. Why wasn't 8 months ago media folks who were paid, that's their job, why weren't they asking questions of like, wait a minute, the right-wing Republicans are the ones who are going to save our democracy? Like, these are the ethical people in politics.
Right.
Like, why do we have to wait until
Yeah.
things get terrible to ask these obvious questions?
And I'd also like to give Bill Maher a shout out for, and it's so cyclical. It's like, Steve Schmidt writes a letter of resignation from the Lincoln Project where he cites his own experience with a camp nurse named Gay Ray. I don't know if you read his resignation letter, but he really is trying to weaponize the fact that and it's terrible that something happened to him at his summer camp when he was 13. He uses that to deflect from the fact that he's been shielding this guy who's a predator, who has John Weaver. Leslie, I'll show you some of this later because you will absolutely lose it. But he writes this letter of resignation. We now know he knew about John Weaver's behavior, and John Weaver is someone who was engaged in predatory behavior with at least one underage person, a 14-year-old, someone as young as 14. But several, hundreds of young men have come forward with the disgusting messages he sent them and offering to hook them up professionally. But so Steve Schmidt, first Rick Wilson, who's I don't know who's grosser of the two of them, but Rick Wilson pretends he didn't know. In a video that then, of course, plugs his show. I don't even know what his terrible show is called. This is another Lincoln Project guy. Then Steve Schmidt, he releases this letter, resignation. Also, he converted to Judaism, which I didn't know. But thanks for letting us know that was also in the letter.
Well,
yeah,
are you welcome him?
We're gonna know anti-Mazel Tov. Yeah. And he, at the end of this thing where he says he had no idea and talks about how he's dealt with depression and anger and sought guidance here and there. And he goes, and please see me tonight on the Bill Maher show. So he plugs his media appearance on the Bill Maher show, and Bill Maher has him on. It's the day of his resignation amidst this total sexual harassment, predatory scandal. And what does Bill Maher do? Yeah, he asks him about the other disgusting thing that the Lincoln Project does, which is it's just a lobbyist for itself and all the way it gave itself all these contracts, right? Much less significant though. That's Bill Maher grilling Steve Schmidt. He doesn't ask him anything about this abuser that he enabled for years. Or fine, ask him, give him the benefit of the doubt. Be like, how did you not know? Wow, now that you know, what are you going to do? Fine. Doesn't even come up. The guy doesn't come up. John Weaver, the co-founder who has harassed all these young men, doesn't come up. And then you get the Daily Beast praising Maher for grilling him. Yeah, he grilled him. He asked him about finance stuff. He didn't ask him about this predator who they founded the super PAC with and pretended not to know about. It's so infuriating. Sorry.
Well, I'm not surprised.
Anyway, yeah.
I wish I was surprised, but
I know.
not.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but thank you so much, David, and come back on.
Thank you. Anytime. Thank you so
Yes.
much. It's good to see both of you. Thank you for having me. I really
Bye.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my God, I can't even tell you about that part of it. It's so terrible.
So terrible. Heavy
it's
stuff.
so ridiculous.
Heavy stuff in the first hour and a
Yeah, I
half,
know.
folks. But serious, but important stuff. And thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for support. And Katie, I just want to say, my mind is blown when you told me who was on this show. You do such a
Oh,
wonderful
thank you.
job every week, getting the people on. And frankly, you need to stop it because you're making us all the rest of us look bad.
Yeah, right.
If we're
Well, as
being
long,
honest.
no. And I wanted, someone was like, oh, you didn't look grateful at all. I was grateful for the very incredibly generous donations. I'm sorry. I felt weird because we're talking about, and
Right.
keep them coming, but we were talking, the reason I looked kind of sober was because we were talking about like Ron Kim's,
And thousands of people.
yeah, that dying and his uncle, but really, thank you. I'm going to. So, guys, we didn't even. We barely kept it out of the. We kept it in the bag. We have such an amazing part two. We're going to take a little bit of time to just chill. I think if Leslie, if you're okay, will you take some questions, or will you just like give a review of what's something you would want to talk about for like a couple of minutes without me?
Oh, I can talk about anything.
Yeah.
We can get into it.
Yeah.
Anything. Anything you want. If you want to talk about what's been going on in the news this
You
week.
could talk more about the cancel. You could give him an update from the Carano story because I just have to get some.
There
links in
is an
order.
update.
So I'm gonna let me mute myself and put this on loudspeakers, whatever, so I can hear it. I'm gonna mute myself. Oh, perfect. Okay. And then
All
yeah, tell us about that, and then we're gonna bring in our next.
Well,
guests.
hello everyone. Welcome to Struggle Session. I am taking over the K. Halper show right now. Fortunately, Jack Allison is on vacation, but we are here live with Struggle Session with your Gina Carano update. Now, look, I've been back and forth on this. We talked about this last week, where I said that it felt to me like Gina Carano was trying to get herself fired. And I got kind of confirmation of this like the next day, because the next day, guess what? She had a movie deal with what is it? Is it Ben Shapiro? I think it's Ben Shapiro has a company. I get these the new right wing guys confused because I don't watch any of them at all, like even a little bit. I just if I see a clip on Twitter, I might check it out, but I've never seen like Mike Cernovich talk or Ben Shapiro, so I don't really know anything about them. But yes, she did have that movie deal. I was like, oh, of course. She had that deal in the bag, and she was trying to get fired from Disney just by posting increasingly, more and more, kind of inflammatory stuff after being told repeatedly not to. Turns out, I actually don't think that's true right now. And in fact, I'm going a little bit back. If what Gina is saying is true, and I don't think she's lying, and from what she said, even though she's like a kooky person, I haven't known her to be a liar, and she said stuff that was still kooky, right? Like when people who are a little, I don't know her to be a liar. I don't know that she's lied about anything. And what she said kind of resonated with me. I was like, maybe she shouldn't have gotten fired, because what she actually said was she got in trouble with Disney for the first thing, getting in the fight about the pronoun stuff, and she did say, I don't have anything problem with the trans with I think the LGBT, she used the term like transgender community, like goofy shit. Obviously she's kind of a goofy person, but she said, I don't have a problem with that. I just didn't like that people were telling me I had to put my pronouns in my bio, because her thing is not, as I said last week, and people were doubting me, but her big thing is that like she doesn't like being told what to do. She's afraid of some liberal hegemony, some cancel culture stuff, and that's what the movie that she said in the press release. But when she did this interview with my least favorite person in the world, Barry Weiss, I'm so upset. I started this pandemic talk thinking, oh, I'll get Gina Carano on my podcast, and now Barry Weiss, the person I hate the most in the world, has Gina Carano on her freaking podcast, and Gina Carano sucks now. Horrible for me. But yes, Gina Carano, she said on the Barry Weiss podcast that she was only told once by Disney to cool it, and they had a big thing, and they wanted her to post this formal apology, and again, getting back to her just being no, she was like, I don't want to post your apology, I want to post my apology. And she said since then she had never heard anything back from Disney. So she had posted some stuff that people got mad about. Since then, she had been trending on Twitter for people getting mad at her. I assume that every time this happened, Disney was like, you need to cool it, you need to cool it, you need to cool it. According to Gina, that's not what happened. According to Gina, they told her the first time, and then they never talked to her again, even when they fired her. According to Gina, she found out she was fired from social media, from being online. And because of the way that statement was phrased, like it was very intense and fast, I don't think she's lying about that. She could be, but I don't think she's necessarily lying about that. And if that's the case, if Disney wasn't saying, "Hey, you need to cool it, you need to cool it," over this time, I don't think it's fair to fire her. Like they should have been more proactive with this. People, Dutch 1331, you say stay off social media. It's not good. I agree, but I think that Disney in particular has been irresponsible with the way it has pushed its stars to use social media and how it hasn't protected them at all. Lots of them. And now, obviously, Gina Carano needed to be protected from herself. Very different situation than some of the other people. But John Boyega's taking a lot of flack, but he didn't care. He didn't give a fuck about Disney. He likes trolling the racist fans. But I think the actress who played Rose Tico, she got a lot of heat and deleted her account, and she was just like an improv person, right? Like before she was in Star Wars, she was not famous at all. I did hear a funny story that before she was in Star Wars, she threw a big party for herself where she told people that she was going to be super famous. I don't know if that's true. That's just a funny story, but she seems like a lovely woman. And Disney just let her go to the wolves. They don't give these people social media training. They don't, help them manage their accounts. It's just mostly them doing their own thing, which is both good and bad. Like Disney should be helping them out with this sort of thing. And even like a Gina Carano, who's just wild, it would make sense for Disney to be like, Gina, we got to get this social media thing together. Maybe she would have said, all right, fine, I'm not working for Disney. And that would have saved everybody a lot of trouble. I don't know. But I do believe Gina that she was that Disney just kind of let her go. And that does change how I feel about the situation. I assume because, this is what I would do if I would say, hey, in fact, I've had to do this. People who know the big struggle session lore know that I've been in this situation before. And I assume that they were just telling, hey, you got to cool it. You got to cool it. That didn't appear. According to Gina, that didn't happen. And if that's true, I actually don't think it's fair to fire her for the second infraction. I don't think that's fair. I think that's even I really don't. And she did comment on the anti-Semitism of her post. She said she didn't think because the anti-Semitism of the post wasn't that it was anti-Jewish people. It was that it compared the plight of Jews to the plight of Republicans right now. So that's why it was anti-Semitic. It wasn't like something like ridiculously offensive. It was more like you're trying to compare yourself to this, and that's fucked up, and you shouldn't do that. So I don't think a second infraction that really you should get fired for that. I just don't. If we could ban Matt Dill for being racist, that would be cool. But Basque, what's my MA in? It's going to be English. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a clumsy analogy. She shouldn't have posted it, but I also don't think, like I said last week, if that was her first time posting, I don't think she should have been fired. And actually, if it's the second time she's gotten in trouble, I don't necessarily think she should have been fired. Like 2 infractions, I was assuming that this is the 4th time. She wants to go. They're sick of her. It's kind of a mutual thing. Apparently, Disney, was Disney and, gave her that one issue and then was just like, we're going to fire her. And then apparently, according to her, didn't contact her, didn't talk to her. I really don't think it really changed my mind about the whole situation, even though obviously I don't agree with Gina Carano's politics or anything like that. But it's just heartbreaking. But it is heartbreaking for me as a huge fan, biggest Gina Carano fan in the world, to see her now making crappy conservative movies. She's going to be doing Kevin Sorbo stuff. It's the worst of all worlds. It's just the worst of all worlds. And it's just really, really sad to see this. But Hey, here we go. Am I promoting self censorship? I mean, I just think that if you work for Disney, you probably there's a limit to what you post. Don't work for Disney. Sorry, I do have to say that. If you do work for Disney, if you choose to work for one of the most awful, really awful corporations in the world that have the squeaky clean image, you can't pop off on Instagram, no matter how pissed off you're at quarantine. And I really think that's what like upset her. Like this is why this happened, because she was there by herself with her two dogs. She's not like super wealthy or anything. Like she's not one of the celebrities who like has a mansions they can fly out to. She's not like that. She's not like that rich. She made like, I think they released a rumor her salary was like 100K, somewhere between 50 and 100K per episode, but she's only on like two or three episodes a season, so it's not like, and it depends on how they're even counting what an episode is. So I don't so she didn't make like a ton of money on this show, and people were comparing maybe the Ben Shapiro deal might actually be a better deal for her. Who knows if she becomes like I really wish she was just like had hooked up with like Craig Zahler. I haven't seen a lot of his movie. I haven't seen his movies, but I heard they're good. He is a conservative. If John Milius was around, director of Conan Barbarian, conservative. Well, he's more of a wild man than like a strictly a conservative. But it would be nice if he were still around. Gina Carano could be in that. So we have a super chat. Let's see what we got. Can people stop saying Gina Carano said anti-Semitic things? Just read the actual comment. It isn't hard to find. Slander nonstop from the media. Yes, yeah. I mean, it's anti-Semitic in a sense, but it's like it's not like meant to be attacked. It's just it's just a goofy dumb thing to say that also people say all the time. People are always making Holocaust comparisons and Nazi comparisons and all day. It's like all day is what people do. Like, so I don't think necessarily I don't think she's anti-Semitic, even if that post might have been lightly anti-Semitic, as far as I know. And I don't necessarily think she's transphobic, even though she did like troll trans fans. But from her perspective, her thing was that, oh, I don't want people telling me what to do, and that's what she wanted to say. She was kind of she was angry about. She said she was angry about the Disney apology they wrote for her because they wanted her to like admit that she was like somehow biased against trans people, and her thing was, no, I just like don't like being told what to do because I'm a baby brain, and I don't like being asked what to do. That was her thing, and it's just sad situation. I feel a little bit differently about it than I did last week, but I hate Disney. I don't like the Mandalorian show. I hate it. It's so funny. The Mandalorian show has Gina Carano, one of my favorite actresses, Rose McGowan in it, and Starbuck. These are three women I absolutely love with. I like Pedro Pascal. Show does nothing for me. I used to love Star Wars. As a kid, it was my favorite thing in the world. Mandalorian does nothing for me. He says I'm not trans, so I have excuse. No, dude. Like seriously. Like I'm literally just like trying to be like say what happened. Like I don't defend transphobia in any sense of the word or anti-Semitism, but I'm just saying what happened and trying to be fair to someone. I said, hey, last week I said, oh yeah, cancel her. That's it. I'm not trying to defend her. I said it was fine that they fired her. Like I didn't say like that last week. I had no problem saying that. But this week, if what she's saying is true, I do think that two isn't enough. I think three times, third strike's a charm maybe, but like, and then firing them without contacting them directly kind of sucks. Halp is not congenially boring. Someone says, fuck Star Wars. He stole it from Dune. He did steal it from, he did borrow a lot from Dune, but he created something interesting too. And now Dune is the new Dune movie looks much less interesting than Star Wars at this point. Katie, welcome back.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for helping. This was great. I was watching it. It's fascinating. I think you're so brave. And I think that, honestly, Barry Weiss getting to Carano before you could is a shanda, which is of course a shame in Yiddish, and yeah, very upsetting. And also want to just thank everyone who has donated. Can everyone please like this stream? Just like it. All you have to do is press a like. Everyone also make sure you follow Leslie and Struggle Session. And what else? Share. Become a Patreon if you want. Just, for bonus content, you become a Patreon at $5 level, and at $1 level, $1 a month, you're helping make the show happen. And so you can do that at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And Leslie, sorry.
Thanks Hazy Way for the super chat. Loved y'all in bad faith and totally agree with Leslie that impeachment only occurred because the riots happened and scared them instead of regular people. Well, the bill. We found out whether that was true or not, and it's pretty obvious that was true. That they don't even care about it. They don't even care about. We forgot that we didn't even talk. We have to do an impeachment update, kind of.
Yeah, I know. Well, here's what we're gonna do right now, right, Leslie? I don't even know if you know how amazing our next panel is, because I didn't want to overwhelm you. Okay. We're about to bring in to this panel some pretty amazing people, and they include Ed Angueso, who is a brilliant labor reporter. Hey Ed, thanks for coming.
Hey Ed, welcome back. Good to see you.
How you doing? Great to be here.
And I'm going to do my reminder that everyone, please, if possible, record your own audio, so that we can make it into a much better sounding podcast. And also, of course, make it so your input is your mic and your output is your headphones. Okay, so Ed, but besides that, I shouldn't have subjected you to that tech thing. Great labor reporter and Big Black Jacobin on Twitter. We also are bringing back the lovely Briahna Joy Gray, host of Bad Faith podcast.
Yay.
And general rabble rouser. I can call her
TMZ
that, right?
star.
OMG. Okay.
TMZ star.
Yeah, TMZ star. Look, the latest Katie Halper Show bump strikes again, and it gets Briahna Joy Gray on TMZ, which, wow, TMZ is now a better source of news than, MSNBC, obviously, we knew that, but, so we got Briahna Joy Gray. Then we are also bringing back on such an all-star panel, and this guy is an all-star. I don't know enough about sports to say it, so forget it. But he's an activist and a running back. Justin Jackson. Hello, thank you so much for joining again.
You're muted.
You're muted. Not by us. Oh, and I want to say hi to
There
fan of the oh, great. And fan of the show. Where is it? Adele Rogai. Yes, Queens. Thank you. Adele is a young artist, fan of the show. Friend of the
Justin
show.
has a new show, The Takeover. Look at him.
Oh,
got the Takeover in the name. Already got the promo going.
We got it plugged.
Yeah, you got to do it. And we have joining us once again, also brilliant Trevor Bouillot, who is the host of Champagne Sharks podcast. So thank you. Welcome for coming.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, you?
Pretty good. I was frying a bunch of chicken, so I don't know if I look greasy, but
No. Although it may have schmutzed up your camera a little bit. There's a little bit of a haze on your lens, I think.
I wasn't frying it in here, so I don't know.
Okay, good job, yeah.
But
So
look at this. This is how you This is how you are a white ally. This is how you are a white ally. You bring on the black excellence. This
I
is
should
beautiful.
just mute myself the whole show, really, if I'm going to be an ally. But yeah. Everyone, thank you so much for joining, and make sure you're recording your own audio again, and don't have your oh yes, please, thank you. Is that possible, Brie? It's always the podcast hosts.
The podcast host. No, it's not that. It's that you're gonna have to choose. I either plug my microphone into this, and the sound is good for the live stream, or I get my Zoom recorder out and I record it independently.
Yeah. What do we think? Someone, Nick or Brad?
Good mic in podcast. Good mic in podcast, I would probably say.
Okie dokie. 1 second.
Okay. I look so, this is going to sound awkward, but I look very, there's not a lot of contrast in my face. That's all I'm saying. And then once I started saying that, it sounded like some corny joke about being white or something, but I just was looking at how... I don't know. I gotta up the contrast. But we're going to be talking about Joe Biden because basically, as we'll explain in more depth when Briahna Joy Gray returns, Briahna Joy Gray and I did I believe it was a breaking news. It was an emergency broadcast where we responded to the leaked footage of Joe Biden. People may remember there was leaked footage of Joe Biden speaking to Black civil rights leaders. And one of the best parts of that leaked video footage, and it was so good that Briahna Joy Gray and I did an emergency broadcast about it, and then we revisited it with people, including the illustrious panel members, was, of course, Biden saying something about how, he was, something that gave him hope was that, 15 years ago, would you ever think that 3 to 4 out of 5 to 7 commercials would be biracial commercials? And we thought that was an interesting thing to say. And that was him like on a hot mic. That was on leaked footage. But as we've learned since the town hall that Biden had the other day.
Wait. Quick thing.
Yes.
It wasn't technically a hot. I mean, it was a leaked conversation.
You're right. It was a leaked conversation, not a hot mic. You're right.
Yeah.
Right. That's actually, yes, that's very true. Right. Not a hot mic, leaked conversation. Yeah. But let me, I have the very important tweet. Nick, if we could just get those, let's see, which one is it? Oh, hold on. I think we can start with that one. Let me just put that in. I think that's a good jumping off point. I don't know how many of you guys actually saw the whole town hall.
No way, no.
I saw like none of it for Twitter clips.
I saw the Twitter
same
clips.
Yeah, well, we're
I
gonna.
try to watch through some of it, especially when I saw people starting to get angry at him on Twitter, but it's hard.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Well, you know what? I actually think that before we play this, and everyone share this if you're watching this, but before we play this clip, I think we could just play, Nick, if you don't mind, the first, because someone mentioned Briahna Joy Gray's TMZ appearance, and we're going to get into the question of student debt. Can we play the first link that I put in the doc, Nick? And you know what? I'm not sure. I can't see this, so I'm just going to play it myself. Guys, this is. Hold on. All right, I'm going to do this. I got it. So this is just this is from Case Study QB, who everyone should be following, by the way. Really great content. So here, the nice thing about this clip is that it shows us both like what Biden said, and it also shows us the way that the media responds to it. So,
the more progressive elements in his party, and Schumer is standing.
We need student loan forgiveness beyond the potential $10,000 your administration has proposed. We need at least a $50,000 minimum. What will you do to make that happen?
I will not make that happen.
Okay, so does anyone want to respond to just that part of the clip before we get into the media's defense of it?
Big cojones on that one.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
He
that
is
Stuck to his guns. Right?
unapologetically Biden.
Yeah. He's held that position for like months since campaign, I guess, right? $10,000, nothing more, nothing less.
It's really interesting. He really does seem to be like the left or the liberals version of Trump. Like he's just willing to say it right to your face. No, I'm not going to give you that, and just keep it pushing. And he does that a lot. So
it's what you can do when you have the faithful commitment of the party, and when you know there's nothing that will ever sway anyone from voting for you and supporting for you, no matter what. Those are balls that Democrats handed to him on a platter. Like we all, we collectively, we gave him those balls. Those are our.
I mean, some of us tried to snip away at them, but yeah.
Also,
congratulations, America.
Has he ever said nothing less? Because I know he said nothing more, but I feel like less is always on the table with him.
Oh, I mean, it's on the table, definitely.
True, yeah.
But I think the less has been like 10,000, but maybe not executive action and trying to pass it through legislation. And if he does that, then kiss that goodbye.
Also, that's means tested as well. It's 10,000.
yeah.
I think the upper
about that.
income limit is $125,000 a year, and I think there might be some other Kamala style hoops to jump through. You got to start a small business in a disadvantaged community, which you luck out. That's the whole country now.
Yeah, one of my friends was telling me, like, if people are so insistent on how you earn what you work hard for, and like, billionaires work hard, then why do we means test all the time? Like, just let them have it. If let rich people have the money, and also let poor people have it. Like, what's the point of doing rigorous means testing when we already throw away so much money, in subsidies or in handouts to wealthy individuals?
Yeah, I thought that this clip, if we keep playing it, Nick, it's just a good way because Bree, you said that it was the Democratic Party that enabled Biden, but it's also it takes a couple to tango, and without the media, without the extremely compliant media, he also wouldn't have the freedom to say things as kind of as things that should be disqualifying, right? So let's take a look at how the media responds to this.
Let's discuss Paul Begala. This is the first real test of Biden, the more moderate Democrat, facing off against the more progressive elements in his party. And Schumer is standing with the progressives.
Yeah, and he needs to understand that Joe Biden has the support in the Gallup poll of 98% of Democrats. Biden is more popular among Democrats than Trump ever was among Republicans. And we obsess about the Trump base, and it's interesting, and they're important people, and we want to learn from that. But Biden's got 98% of his party. And so I think he's in full command of his party. And we're so used to a president who does nothing but pander to his base. Here's Joe Biden. The base does want this $50,000 debt forgiveness. And Biden says, no, I'm not going to do it. And by the way, he's prioritizing things like COVID relief, like 11 million people who've lost their jobs, like 14 million children who are experiencing what the demographers call food insecurity, which means kids are going hungry. And, I think President Biden wants to do something about student debt, but I think he's exactly right.
Sorry, really quickly, we have if you guys want to stay, please do if you need to leave, but we have a very important guest coming on who we just made this happen because she's in Texas. And so we're going to, wait one second.
This is my Birds of Prey Twitter thread that I found, so I have notes.
Sorry, this is like an awkward. Sure,
we'll debate on struggle session.
Let me try to. I'm trying to shift gears. So I'm gonna. You guys, no, it's okay. But we're bringing on someone who is like an amazing person, and I've known her online, but never met in real life. Some of you may know her. She was a congressional candidate. Her name is Sema Hernandez, she is in Texas. So I wanted to make sure that we got to hear from her about what's happening. And so apologies for this kind of awkward transition from dating shows, dating apps and TV shows. But Sema, welcome. Hello? Can you hear me? See me? Let me just make it. Hold on, let me.
And Kate, I can drop off because it's
okay.
silly people. But please tell Sema that I absolutely love and appreciate her and all her work. She's absolutely wonderful. Thank you, everyone, so much. Check out Struggle Sessions, Plus. Have a good night.
Bye, Leslie.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
I have to get moving.
Okay.
Too.
Sure.
Yeah, I was going to say hi to Sema and then probably push on myself as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I think Sema's frozen.
Yeah. Let me try to. Hold on.
Take care. Oh, I'll do a quick plug. Go to youtube.com/champagne sharks or twitch.tv/champagne sharks. All right, or champagnesharks.com. Take care, everybody. Say hi to Summer for me, and everybody be good.
Yeah, you too.
Bye,
Later.
Oops, sorry.
I also would like to plug both T and Leslie's shows because I enjoy them a great deal.
Yeah,
I really, honestly do.
So we got disconnected.
Ow.
Oh, are you okay?
No, I'm good. It's just clawing on my back. Come on.
Go B.
Gotta trim their nails.
Can I tell you, I am not a cat person. Like, I'm a humanist and I care about animals and I want them to have happy and productive lives.
Okay, I think. Hold on. I'll bring you guys back in 1 second. Hold on. Sam, are you ready? Can you hear me? Okay, great. Oops.
Okay, cool.
So we're live.
We are live.
Yeah. Do you need a couple seconds?
No, we're live. This is
we're live. Yeah. So, and let me. Bree is here with us. Briahna Gray, who I believe you know from the internet, who wanted to.
We met in real life.
Oh, you met in real life. Okay,
early
sorry.
in the campaign, I was in
Ed Angueso.
I was in Texas.
In Houston.
Yeah, for a Bernie rally.
Yes,
and we met at a rally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was quite the trip.
And I just wanted to make sure, to give you, I don't know, to tell us what's happening and how you are, because you were tweeting about stuff in Texas and you didn't have heat, and also I'll tweet out. I think I retweeted it. Rosa, who worked on the Bernie campaign, Rosa Calderon, is that her name? Who she tweeted out a mutual aid link for a Texas organization. So just wanted to try to shed light on what's happening there and check in with you. Sorry, this is such an awkward transition because it's late here.
A lot happening right now.
Yeah, but this is obviously really serious and important. So.
Yeah, no, we are literally up at all hours of the night because we don't know when the power is going to go off or it's going to come back on, or if we're going to have water. For the past, I think, since Sunday, so it's been now 5 days, and I've literally lost track of what day it was today. All I know is today's my son's birthday, but I don't know what day it is specifically. I had to ask several times. I know it's the 18th, but I don't know what day.
It's
Friday now.
Friday, yeah.
It's Friday now.
It was Thursday the 18th.
And
yeah, but it's been freezing.
Yeah, so what are people doing and what's the status there? And what can we do to support people there?
Well, what you can tell your viewers and the people that are listening, they can help the Texas mutual aid groups that are out there. I've put an extensive link, and they are the ones that are, figuring out what the needs are in the communities, and they are taking those donations and putting them to tangible items to help people heat their homes if there's electricity, buy sleeping bags, distribute food and distribute water to different communities and different organizations in the area. As far as I know, Austin is still without power. As of, I think, 3 o'clock this afternoon, about 46,000 people did not have electricity in the Houston area or Harris County. We are still under boil water advisories. Some of us haven't had any water for 3 days. Today was the first time since, the storm that I actually took a shower because we didn't have water. And I know that sounds disgusting, but here we are in Texas that is completely supposedly energy independent with a total collapsing energy grid, and we don't have running water. It's just like the third world country.
And I'm sure you've seen, do you have any responses to, and by the way, I put up the for people who are just listening to this later, it's Sema's Twitter is Sema, it's _Sema Hernandez _. And I don't know, actually, do you pronounce it, I'm sorry, Sema or do you pronounce it phonetically, Sema or?
Sema, yes. It's
Sema,
in Spanish and Sema.
Yeah. And also, so if you go to her Twitter, you can see her links. But, and I also forgot to say that she's the host of the Get Political pod. And what is your response to the analysis of certain Texans that this is the result of the Green New Deal or socialism, or any thoughts about how Ted Cruz decided to spend his time trying to going to Cancun?
Well, let me tell you that it is disgusting what they are saying. The Texas politicians that are funded by the fossil fuel industry, they blame it on wind turbines in West Texas that supply only about 10% of the energy in Texas, while 90% is actually fossil fuels and pipelines, and gas lines. I mean, that to me is absurd. It is completely absurd. Now, Ted Cruz leaving to Cancun, there have been a lot of reports that he's been giving since he came back from Cancun, saying that it was, something that he did for his daughters. He wanted to be a good dad. And then now it's like, well, he felt like it was a duty for him to go and escort his family to Mexico, and it was going to be a quick turnaround trip. Well, in the initial pictures as he was boarding to Cancun, it shows a full suitcase, and no one can say that's his kid's suitcase because his kids had a different suitcase, blue with polka dots, in that picture. His wife Heidi had a different suitcase, and then he had his own. That wasn't an overnight bag. That was a bag packed for a whole weekend. And I know this because I'm a parent and I pack for my kids like I pack for myself, but separately.
Right.
But now he's coming back and he's saying that, liberal cancel culture canceled his planned Cancun vacation.
So now he's admitted that it was a vacation.
Well, I saw a tweet earlier today from a friend of mine, and it's an email that he sent to his supporters fundraising for his campaign, blaming liberal cancel culture for canceling his planned vacation to Cancun, and how he needs patriots to get behind him to support him and fight liberals.
Wow.
So it's just disgusting.
And you had that mayor resigned after blaming people for, I don't know if you saw this, Bree and Ed, but a mayor of a city in Texas was just overtly saying, like, he doesn't have sympathy for people who don't fend for themselves. I mean, it was just like the weirdest, I don't know, application of like stuff that people don't usually try to pretend applies to natural disasters.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Colorado City.
Colorado City, yeah.
I hadn't seen that. That's absurd.
Yeah.
Why, is he not gonna, it's a he? Is he not gonna face any consequence? Like,
he said he wasn't running, so then he
oh,
resigned.
I see.
I think I don't remember if he resigned or he just said he wasn't. Going to be running again anyway. So
He'll be a lobbyist in like 3 months.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem that's going on right now in Texas is we have COVID and it's spreading rapidly, more than other states except Florida. Florida, I'm pretty sure, has a lot of cases. But where do people who have been diagnosed or tested positive for COVID, where do we go? Where do we go to a warming shelter where we want to stop the spread, but we also want to keep our families safe when we don't have electricity for days, where we don't have water for days? We don't have a way to go out. And when we do go out, where do we get fuel for our vehicles to keep us warm in our vehicles? Because that's what I was dealing with. And I certainly don't have the luxury, much like many millions of Texans without power, we do not have the luxury to leave to another country where it's warm in Cancun. I like to know, what the hell are we supposed to do?
And there are cases I've been reading about carbon monoxide poisoning deaths because people are trying to stay warm in their cars.
Well, carbon monoxide poisoning, and there have been families, again, doing desperate things to stay warm, but lighting candles at night, and the house catches on fire, and a grandmother and her 2 grandchildren were dead. The house burned down and they couldn't rescue them. We have an 11-year-old child who was sleeping in a separate room. Their parents layered him with clothing, and in the morning when they checked in on him, he was dead.
Oh my God.
Hypothermia. These are unimaginable circumstances.
And then the governor is also blaming this on left-wing forces, wind turbines. Is there anything that he's going to face, or?
I doubt it. He's been in office for two years, re-election. He won his re-election. There hasn't been anything that he can do or say. There isn't any tangible things that we can do other than request an investigation. And what I've asked a few people is if FEMA or the president are declaring a national or a disaster in the state of Texas, doesn't Congress have the ability to now investigate what went wrong? Because our energy grid is completely not under federal regulation control. It's completely independent and it's separate from the federal government, and that's the way Rick Perry wants to keep it.
Right.
Have you seen those reports? Where Rick
No.
Perry literally said that Texans should be willing to sacrifice not being without power if it means Texas
Oh, no.
regulators.
I didn't see that. I thought you were talking about from when he was flirting with the energy. No, let me call these up.
No, literally, Rick Perry said that Texans should be able to sacrifice being without power if it means keeping federal regulators out of the state of Texas.
Are the lights on at Rick Perry's house?
They
probably. And something interesting that someone told me today is that downtown Houston, as well as very affluent areas across the state of Texas, had their lights on.
Yeah.
And a lot of low-income Black and Brown communities did not have lights on. So we were sacrificed to ensure that the Galleria or downtown Houston were kept on.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this article. Rick at the Guardian. Rick Perry says Texans will endure blackouts, quote, to keep the government out of their business, end quote. Former Texas governor says winter weather crisis should not be used as an opportunity for Democrats to advance energy policies. He said Texans will. It was in a blog post. Sorry, he was quoted as saying this on a Kevin McCarthy blog post. Yeah, so this is okay. Let me just share this. But keep saying. Sorry, I don't mean to cut. While I get this up, of course, if you want to say anything, Semma, more about what you guys are going through, or.
Well, a lot of people are saying that the South isn't ready for something like this, and they're absolutely right. And I keep asking people, in different groups, how is it that they deal with this? Well, they have an energy infrastructure that is able to sustain this kind of weather. We don't. And when the power goes off in our neighborhood, it also goes off in the refineries a mile away. So it's a compounding issue with COVID, the winter storm, not having power, and then the refineries being without power means that we're now breathing in toxic chemicals.
What can you explain? Help me understand what's going on with the refineries? Because they don't have power, the chemicals are leaking, or whatever.
Well,
Safety valves are working?
there is an excess release in emissions. So refineries end up spewing emissions, and they will use a storm as a cover, much like they did during Hurricane Harvey.
I feel like when we spoke, we were talking about an energy pollution issue. Something had exploded? Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah, it was during you guys came in 2 or 3 weeks after the ITC fire.
Yeah.
And it was that big plume that was coming in from Deer Park, Pasadena area, which is where I live. And it went all the way to downtown and went to the Heights, which is a very, again, affluent area. And Bernie Sanders was bringing attention to that, as well as, I think it was Mike Floyd.
What a mess.
It's so scary because the last time when I was contacting you, because I saw one of your tweets, so I DM'd you, and I went to our DMs, and I saw that the last time you and I had, I guess, DM'd you had DM'd me a link that, let me just make sure I have this. I want to open this link. Yeah, here it is. It's kind of not fortuitous. I don't know what the word is, but it's telling. So you had tweeted this on March 27, 2020. As we brace ourselves for an economic collapse brought on by privatization and greed, we must also brace ourselves for the 2020 hurricane season that's a few months away. The planet will suffer complete societal collapse, the perfect storm of climate crisis, COVID-19, and greed.
Apocryphal.
I don't even remember tweeting that. I kid you not. And that whole, Rick Perry and Governor Greg Abbott and Ted Cruz blaming, the Green New Deal and that it wouldn't work in Texas. And that's exactly why we need a Green New Deal in Texas, because we don't need this mess. I've told people in 2 years, we're not even going to be able to live here. In Houston is literally built on a swamp, and it doesn't have any reinforcing infrastructure that can sustain the weight of Houston. We are a sinking city. And we just keep building on top of it without any zoning laws. It's literally the most deregulated state in the union. And as much as Greg Abbott wants to blame the wind turbines, the wind turbines itself were not winterized for this occasion. There are wind turbines in Antarctica that are doing just fine.
What is it going to take, you think, in terms, when you have a clear idea of what we need to do, but also have climate deniers, in the Democratic and Republican parties, does it take people literally occupying spaces to change minds on this? I was listening to a lot of Republicans over the past, few days, but also, Democrats and liberals repeating and not really challenging lies that Republicans were saying about how this was because of climate change, right? Or this was, a problem that can't really have been avoided, and letting claims like that go uncontested. And it feels like there's no real urgency behind the solution we know we need to do, which is a green transition, right?
I think that what's very telling is, again, their response, and they keep resorting to these, conspiracy theories that climate crisis is a hoax, or that it's made up, or it's something manufactured by XYZ country, in order to avoid responsibility. To address this, we need literally radical change to revolutionize our energy grid and our infrastructure, make us completely independent independent from, or not dependent on oil, not dependent on the fossil fuel industry. Creating sustainable jobs is something that has not been developed. You constantly hear people like Ted Cruz or Greg Abbott saying that Democrats want to take away jobs. And that's not true. In fact, the industry that is notorious for not having jobs or having instability in jobs is the fossil fuel industry. They are temporary. As soon as the contract is over, there is no more jobs. What do people do? They go on unemployment and they wait, or they look for another job, or they have to go to another state to find another oil job that, again, is temporary, doesn't guarantee any benefits. And what we need to do to combat that is show the numbers of how many jobs can be created with the Green New Deal that are not temporary, that are sustainable, that there is a trading transition for people to transfer their skill set in the fossil fuel industry to a skill set into a green renewable energy industry. Whether it's laying down a new energy grid, winterizing the turbines, laying down new pipeline for water, because right now, again, our pipelines are freezing and are broken and are deteriorated. We need to winterize our homes, and we definitely need to build up our homes, and beginning in the communities that are most adversely affected and impacted by these catastrophes over and over and over again.
And what are you doing now, just like personally? Because I know you ran for office. What are you working on now? And has it been disrupted by what's happening?
I think everyone's entire life has been disrupted by COVID-19. We really can't do things the same like we used to. As of right now, I am not planning on running for office again, but I do want to help other candidates run for office and help amplify their voices in their campaigns however I can. I don't have any organization under my name, but I am working with an organization called Progressive Coders Network and helping to boost candidates like my friend Brittany DeBarros. She is running for Congressional District 11 in New York, and she just launched her campaign today. She is one of the New Yorkers that I organized with in the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for a moral revival. And I'm excited to work with candidates like her and candidates like Karishma, who's running for a House district seat in Virginia. Working with candidates like Lindsay Boylan, who is running for a seat in New York, and helping develop environmental justice projects in Prog Code that help fix societal issues through progressive causes and organizations.
I got an email about Brittany today. That sounds familiar. I definitely got an email about her campaign today.
And I'm really sorry for what you're going through, personally, and everyone in your state. And how was the response to COVID? I mean, earlier on the show we were talking to David Sirota and Ron Kim about Andrew Cuomo, who, as you probably know, is hailed as this hero, and has been basically letting elderly people die of COVID by giving legal immunity to for-profit nursing homes. So I was going to ask you something about Texas being unique, but then I realized it's in many ways it's not, because look at the liberal governor in New York. I also obviously not trying to be downplay how egregious it is now in Texas and what you guys are going through, but how has this been on both fronts, the climate front and also COVID?
Well, when you look at the cause of the fossil fuel industry, the impacts it has in our low-income communities, you'll see that there is a correlation between our low-income communities that are inundated by the fossil fuel industry and the toxins and the rates of COVID-19 transmission and infection. In our schools here, they were actually forcing me to let my kids stay in school, like to keep them in school. Even though one of them was in contact with a COVID positive child. And the schools, I have 4 kids, just a reminder, 4 kids, and they go to 4 different schools in the same school district, but neither of the schools communicates with each other as far as COVID-19 transmission in the schools. So when one of my kids is sick, all of my kids are exposed because we're all in this household together. But they were insisting that my kids go to school, and then one of my kids tested positive. When I spoke to the nurse said that it wasn't an airborne virus. It was a contact virus. So they're treating COVID-19 essentially like an STD.
What?
I know.
Wait, I don't even understand that. Sorry, they're saying that
they're essentially treating COVID-19 like a contact-only virus, not an airborne virus.
It's an airborne virus.
That's what I said, but these are the school nurses in our area that are saying it's contact only. So if they were in close proximity, in close contact, playing with each other or at the same table, they are now exposed to COVID. Even though there's like 20 kids in a classroom exposed to COVID, breathing in the same air. And what makes it even more egregious is that the teacher gives these elementary school children the option to wear a face mask or a face shield. And the face shield doesn't protect anything other than, sneezing or droplets. The face mask protects your nose and your mouth from exhaling COVID or breathing in COVID. But I don't understand how a teacher can give an elementary school child the option to wear either or when they barely learn how to tie their shoes.
Also, if you don't think it's airborne, why are they even bothering with the fiction of that at all? I mean, like, obviously it's not a fiction, but according to their logic, like, which is it? Is it airborne or is it not? Is the mask, useful or is it not?
So I took my kids out of in-person learning, brought them back home, and they are not going back to school until this is over. And my kid who tested positive for COVID-19 has been home and isn't going back, and he still has to wait the 14 days, which I've now concluded it's 21 days in total for it to leave his system.
Gosh, I'm sorry, Emma. That is just such an awful situation to be putting parents in. It's so irresponsible.
Well, it takes a mental toll on the
yeah.
kids.
And on you. You know, we're being put in an impossible situation here.
I don't even know what to tell my kid. For the first few days, he wore a mask in the house, something that he's never done. This is the place where he's supposed to be safe. And he wasn't wearing a mask because he got the test back that he was positive for COVID. He decided to wear a mask in the household and quarantine himself in his room. And one night I came out and he didn't have a mask, and he was so upset with himself because he didn't want to expose me. And I said, sweetheart, we're already exposed. Just take off the mask and we will just have to deal with it however we can, but we can't let anyone else get sick outside this household. So as the power went out for 12 hours, we got in our car because it was warmer in our car, but we also didn't have any food. So my son was concerned that he couldn't get out of the car to get food because he has COVID and he doesn't want to get anybody else sick. Like, my kid is 13 years old and he has to take that extra mental step to prepare himself to either be held responsible for what he did, like in his own being, that someone else could get sick from him. And that's not something any child should have to go through.
God, and meanwhile, our president is on TV telling kids they can't get COVID or transmit it. This is dystopian. This is horrible. And the through line of all of this, including all of the energy stuff, it's like I think all of us are kind of speechless because we all know in our hearts there's going to be no accountability. There's going to be no liability for any of the malfeasance that led to the power shutdown. There's going to be no liability for any of the people who've made the decisions to direct people to behave in ways that are going to cause the spread of COVID and undoubtedly really harsh outcomes, horrible health outcomes for people. You have Simone Sanders on TV misrepresenting whether or not it's safe for teachers to go back to school without COVID shots. And then the Democratic Party as a whole wants to act like it's Republicans who are the dumb, boo-boo, the fools who don't know how to believe in science. And the whole thing is just a slew of information, misinformation, and mess. And there's not even the assurance that at the end of the day, when everything gets worked out, you'll be able to launch a civil suit or get any compensation, or to be any recompense for any of these people who knowingly in the moment are misleading the public in ways for which they should be liable.
And how old is your you have 4 kids, you said?
4 kids, 8 years old, 10, 13, and 16.
And the 13-year-old is the one who was tested positive? And whose birthday was it?
My 8-year-old, his name is Christian. I usually call him Bubbles.
That's cute.
I know, he probably is just so horrified that I even said that out loud right now.
Cute.
And how did he spend? I mean, how did he celebrate? How did you celebrate his birthday?
I just got him a cake. There was literally no place to buy a cake. All the power has been out everywhere. So my intention was to go to Target to get a cake, but everything was closed in the refrigerated section. So then I thought I'll go to, a donut shop and buy a bunch of donuts and just stack them up and then put sprinkles on them and a candle, and that'll be that. But that wasn't open either. So I took another trip and went to a cake shop, and they had a cake, and we brought it home, and that's the picture that's on Twitter now, is just that picture. And you can tell which one of my kids has been sick for the past few days, is the one that looks really discolored from his eyes. Looks like he's got punched in the eyes, but that's just, lack of sleep. Stress, probably. He just looks awful.
The photo. Is that far down?
He's a cute kid, but he looks awful.
No, right. I'm just trying to find that
Oh, I don't know where it is.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. This is. I saw your. There's, I guess, a funny. Should we play this video of Ted Cruz lying? You posted it, but it may not be something you're in the mood to watch.
Oh, I feel like punching him.
Yeah. So good or no? Cathartic or
Oh,
no?
that's fine. It's your show. Play it.
No, no, no. I don't want. I mean, I really don't. Unless it'll give you some
I think
sense of.
Yeah, people should know what lies he's spewing and how to combat it. And if he's gonna say the left canceled him, well, I think he literally canceled himself.
Yes.
Do y'all have any cold weather where you are?
Yes, but I'm in New York State and it's always cold in this area. But but I've often, whenever things come up, like when I'm cold for a couple minutes just outside, and I was in the city today and it was cold there, but I realize how like scary it must be to have cold weather that you're not actually prepared to, that you've been subjected to in a way that you would never expect and aren't prepared to deal with, not through any fault of your own, but just by virtue of where you live. So yes, it's cold where I am, but I'm warm in the house.
Yeah, we had power outages a lot when I was growing up in Kenya, but it wasn't cold. Like that's just the next level. You know, the TV was off. We couldn't use the electric oven.
Where'd you grow up in Kenya?
In Nairobi. So I mean, like it wasn't. I learned to play the guitar because that's what you do when the lights are out a lot. But it wasn't. There's a survival issue, and on top of that, it's in a part of the country where people freak out if there's like a dusting of snow in the best circumstances because they're just not used to it. So it's a horrible combination of people who aren't used to any kind of cold, plus they're genuinely ill-equipped to deal with it, even under the best of circumstances. It's not comparable to. I mean, it can be freezing here in DC or New York. It doesn't matter. Like, we have the infrastructure to support it. It's more like, frankly, when it used to rain once a year in Saudi Arabia and the whole country would stop because they literally wasn't built. There was no drainage system. It was just puddles and roofs collecting pools of water because it just literally wasn't built for it. It's an absolute disaster.
It's so. I mean, I just think that Cruz and Perry should just be in whatever situation everyone else is in. I mean, that's always what would be amazing to do. Somehow drop these people into the.
Yeah. There's this video, and then there's another video where he did an interview with Hannity, where Hannity is telling him or is asking him to confirm that they knew about the storm days ahead of time. And so now, Ted Cruz is telling one lie here on Hannity, one lie here on this show, and whatever clip this is going to be, and then sending out a fundraising email for his campaign. So lying Ted, true to form, continues to lie about who he is or what he did or what his intentions are.
Let me look for that one, because I had this one of him. Sorry. Brad, if you see any of these, by the way, that are getting mentioned, if you could throw them in. Let me see. I see. Okay, let's see. The most hated man in Texas. I see him. I can post some clips that. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right. Here it is. Okay.
From the official media. Joining us now to talk about it is Texas Senator Ted Cruz. I have a piece of this story that nobody knows, that you know to be true, and Governor Abbott knows to be true. And that is, I got contact very early in the week from the official meteorologist of my radio show, Joe Bastardi, frequent guest on this program at weatherbell.com. And he sent a note to both of you, to you and Governor Abbott. In that note, he said this is going to be far worse than I think others are predicting. You got in touch with him. The governor got in touch with him. You took it seriously. And you worked hand in hand with the governor in the lead up to this, knowing this was all a big possibility. And this is days before that happened, and you were fully and completely engaged. And I know that from my own reporting and my own conversations with you and Governor Abbott and with Joe Bastardi. Now, you went and you took your daughters to Cancun and you came back. I think you can be a father and be the senator of Texas all at the same time and make a round trip, quick drop-off trip and come home.
Well, Sean, that's right. And starting with what you opened with, you connected me with Joe early on before these storms actually even hit the state of Texas. And I got to say, you called me and told me Joe was very impressive. He knew his stuff. And I called him that evening and spent significant time on the phone with him talking through what he saw coming. And he was predicting not one, but two major winter storms, the combination of which he believed would have an impact on Texas that would exceed anything we've seen in this state since 1899. And I thought it was a very impressive, a very serious. He sent me charts and data on what was coming. And you reached out and I reached out to Governor Abbott and said, listen, this guy knows his stuff and you ought to talk to him. And we helped connect them. And, you know, at the same time, Governor Abbott had already declared an emergency in all 254 counties all across Texas. And so I joined with John Cornyn in urging Joe Biden to declare a federal disaster to mirror the governor's request, which President Biden, to his credit, did. And so that was early on, right before these storms came. We knew they were serious. This week has been hell for the state of Texas. It has been two storms on top of each other. 4 million Texans lost power, no lights, many with no water. It has been frustrating. I'll tell you, Sean, a lot of Texans are mad or pissed off. How can it be that Texas, the energy capital of the world, can't turn our lights on and can't heat our homes? A lot of Texans are frustrated. This shouldn't have happened. I'll tell you, Heidi and me, we lost power for 2 days. Our house was dark. We had no heat. Actually, the fireplace behind me, we were all huddled around the fireplace because it was the only heat in the house. And after a couple of days, after the girls being really cold, it being in the teens and the 20s outside, our girls said, look, school's been canceled for the week. Can we take a trip and go somewhere warm? And Heidi and I, as parents, we said, okay, sure. And so last night I flew down with them to the beach. And then I flew back this afternoon. I had initially planned to stay through the weekend and to work remotely there. But as I was heading down there, I started to have second thoughts almost immediately because the crisis here in Texas, you need to be here on the ground. And as much as you can do by phone
heading down
and
there.
Zoom, it's not the same as being here.
Why.
And so I returned this afternoon, and I'm here working to make sure to do everything we can to get the power turned on, but also fundamentally to ask the questions, why did this happen? Why was the Texas grid, which is regulated at the state level, it's operated at the state level, it's not a federal function, it's a state function, but why was the grid not sufficiently prepared so that 4 million Texans lost heat and power? We need to answer that, and we need to make sure it never happens again in the state of Texas.
To what extent? Now, Texas is very unique in that there's no federal control authority over their energy grid. It's separate and apart, which for a lot of different reasons is very good for Texas.
Why? Name one reason.
You do not have to abide by the burdensome regulations of the federal government. Very smart on Texas.
My federal lights are on.
And I think that's brilliant. Well, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I thought we learned during COVID that teleschool, telemedicine, teleworking, Zoom calls, all this other stuff changed the way we do everything. Now, I'm not assuming that the people of Texas thought you were going to go out there with blow torches and antifreeze and get the wind turbines going. But you raise a good question, and that is, with all the natural resources of Texas, why is Texas relying on wind turbines, which, by the way, it's use it or lose it. You can't store that energy. And why, in that sense, isn't it upgraded to what works now? Now, eventually, if it works and Texas chooses that, I'm an all the above guy. But for now, oil, gas, and coal are our main sources of energy, and nuclear energy.
Right. So why aren't they
people
working?
Let us use it.
It's like 11% of the power in Texas.
I think you said it right, which is that we should use all of the above. In Texas, Texas is the #1 producer of wind energy in the country, more than California. About 25% of our electricity comes from wind, and that's a valuable asset. My view is we ought to be using all the energy sources, but we shouldn't have mandates. We shouldn't be subsidizing any. We should let the market decide, the consumers decide. Right now, we don't have clear answers as to why the Texas energy grid couldn't handle this surge in the winter. Obviously, a massive surge like this is very unusual in Texas. It appears there were a combination of factors. One factor is a substantial number of the wind turbines froze and ceased producing energy.
Because they weren't winterized.
Elsewhere, other colder climates, you're able to put treatments and lubricants on wind turbines so they can operate in the cold. But in Texas, that wasn't predicted to happen, and so they didn't do that. We saw a huge drop-off.
You just said you
in
knew it
energy
was
from
coming.
wind. We
Because
also
you're using
saw
weathermen.
substantial drop-offs from coal.
It literally
substantial
snows in parts of
drop-offs
Texas.
From
Right. Also, why wasn't he using his powerful voice to warn people about this and get everyone's asses in gear?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that there wasn't any winterization of the turbines. Too, it snows in Texas, and you don't have to play the rest of this crap. Okay. But if you hear the double talk about not having any regulations and having the freedom and liberty, that only applies to corporations. Right. But when it comes to people having the freedom and liberty and what have you of regulating our own bodies, he puts a full stop on that. It's the constant double speak. He's out there saying, Black Lives Matter are lawless, but he himself doesn't like laws or regulations. So where is Ted Cruz? He's just a fucking libertarian, Republican, conservative bitch ass, and that's all I'm gonna say on that, because I have a lot of words for him, but this
Spanish and English too. Sorry.
Well, yes, and I actually do know Spanish. This guy does not, but he in the other clip, he literally says that he was only going there to take his daughters, and he was coming back the very next day. In this clip, he says that he was planning to stay a few extra days. And so it's like, what were you doing? Was this planned? Was this after a few days after electricity was out? Was this a one-day trip? Like, make up your mind. Because now we just don't know.
Because he got caught with that big old suitcase, and it wasn't credible, the idea that he was just going for a round trip. What's he got, like 15 blow dryers in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he left with a mask that said, "Come and take it." The same mask that he wore during the insurrection.
Did you see that they had the group DMs released to try to also change the story when it was no longer sufficient to say that he was just going to check in on his daughters, and now they're trying to throw his wife and say that it was her idea, but still that doesn't, detract from the fact that he didn't care. He doesn't care about the state, right? Just wanted to get away.
Right.
No, and when someone else confirmed that he was going, because in his mind there was nothing that he can do to help Texas. Like, if there's nothing you can do to help the state of Texas or Texans, period, 29 million of us, then what the hell are you doing? Why don't you just resign? You should have resigned after you incited the violence on the Capitol. You should have resigned yesterday. You should have resigned today. But we still don't have that yet. And literally all of Texas hates him. I have a friend. She's a Republican. She voted for Trump in 2016. She voted for Biden this time around. And she called me and said, Ted Cruz will be on ABC 13 Houston tonight. She says, God, I hate him, and everyone hates him. How dare he go to Cancun while we are freezing to death? And that was shocking to me. I'm like, how many other people feel that same way? That are Republican or libertarian or, socialists or Democrats or what have you. Like, how many people collectively in the state of Texas feel that he is literally the most egregious person in Congress and ever to be alive?
if Dems were smart, these are the Republicans that they would be interviewing on their cable news spots, not the people who ran the Bush administration or the Lincoln Project folks or, Michael Steele or whomever. Go find some real people who probably a generation or two ago might even have been, maybe not in Texas, but other Democrats, and air their grievances and offer a solution.
Right.
Offer, use your words and use this as an opportunity to advertise what Democrats can do. What would help you in this moment? I don't know. Would recurring $2,000 checks help you in this moment? Would it help you to get to a warmer place or to order supplies? Maybe it would enable you to take a plane ticket to somewhere warm. I would like for this to be an opportunity, but if anything, somehow I can't help but cynically think that it's going to be an opportunity for Republicans to press some kind of anti-Green New Deal message, and we're just going to be one step behind where we were to begin with.
Yeah, that's my concern too, because we already saw trial run of that where they were already giving up the ground to Republicans when they were saying lies about the cause of the energy or the electricity blackouts, and not really contesting the bullshit and the conspiracies that they were coming up with, and instead being like, oh well, it's more complex than that. How's it more complex? It's a lie,
Right.
Yeah, and this should show everyone the kind of person that Ted Cruz is, and remember that he was nowhere to be found when the Senate was having a hearing on the $2,000 checks before Biden took office. Ted Cruz was literally out hunting in South Texas for quail while there was a hearing on those $2,000 checks. So he did not show up for days. And he literally posted a picture of himself with a bunch of dead quails and his hunting partner that was out there. This is who Ted Cruz has always been. This is who Ted Cruz will continue to be, whether he runs for re-election for the U.S. Senate, whether he runs for election in 2024 to seek the presidential office. This is who people need to remember who he is and why we cannot settle for mediocre candidates offering us the same bullshit just with a different with a different party, whether it's Democratic or otherwise.
Yeah. I co-sign obviously everything you guys are saying. And I know Bree and Ed, it's very late on the East Coast, so I want to thank you guys because I know you were going to leave a lot earlier. So thank you for staying.
It's really good to talk to you and hear from you again, Sema, and I'm wishing you all of the best and sending you all of the positivity I can. And do let us know if there's anything concrete, any calls to action that you'd like us to promote and give to.
Yeah. So if Katie, if you have the screenshots of the mutual aid groups across Texas, it's from Houston to Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, all the way to El Paso, and South Texas in the Rio Grande Valley. They are going to need as much help as possible so that they can get the help to people directly where food banks cannot. Usually food banks require you to drive up and pick up the supplies, but that's very difficult to do if you, 1, don't have a car, 2, you can't drive on ice, and 3, you don't have enough gasoline to wait in line. And those mutual aid funds have been in operation since COVID-19 because of the failures of our government.
Okay. So
they provide a lot of rental assistance and help people get out of jail who have been in detention because they can't pay cash bail as well, and exposed to COVID in jail.
Yeah, this is such a it feels like some Dante. It feels like some infernal, impossibly terrible, tragic combination. Anyway, but I have more. I can chat more, Sam. I just wanted to.
I wish I had more things to say because it's all doom and gloom right now. But
I know.
Yeah.
but I'll stay on and take people's, if people have questions, I'll take them, and then you should connect to you and Ed should follow each other because Ed does labor and tech reporting. So maybe
Ed, where is Ed?
on on Twitter, but also at
what's your handle, Ed?
I think it's in there. Did I put it in
Big
there?
Black Jacobin.
Oh no, it's not. Yeah.
It is. That's my Twitter handle, Big Black Jacobin.
Oh, I already follow you.
Oh, perfect.
No.
Let me just make sure I
Cool.
follow you.
Yeah, let me find where's the other. There should be a Texas Mutual Aid thing. Yeah, this is so disgusting. Yeah, there he is. There's Ted. With his overnight bags. Piece of shit.
Also, he left his dog
Where?
in his house.
He did. He left his dog at home.
What is up with
Yes.
these people? Mitt Romney also is terrible as his dog.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
someone drove by the house and it was like in the doorway, a little like white
That's
poodle.
so sad. Someone should free it.
Well, he's back now.
Oh, right, yeah.
yeah, so he abandoned
Yeah,
Texas. He abandoned his puppy,
Yeah, who does that?
and then he abandoned his kids in Cancun.
Also, well, why is nobody asking why the wife isn't capable of taking the kids there by herself? I mean, the optics of that, frankly, aren't great either. Like, best case scenario, send them to a hotel in downtown Houston. Even that looks like let them eat cake, but it's better than shipping out to Cancun.
Kitty, I
save
sent
some
you-
cameras and go down to Home Depot and get a space heater and make it a photo op.
I just sent you a
wood in
link
the backyard. Sorry.
That's okay.
DM me?
Sorry.
I'm doing comms for Ted Cruz now.
Yeah, right. Seriously, I know. That's your.
I'm sorry, Katie. I sent you the link for the Texas Mutual Aid groups and the DM group.
Oh, okay, great. I'll do that now. Let me share that now. Yeah, this is sorry, I feel like I'm not very articulate now because I have no real insight into. I mean, it's just so yes, mutual aid. That's the answer. There it is. Oops. Okay.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, am I not sharing it?
No, I see it now. I had scrolled down the
Okay, got it,
page
yeah.
earlier, trying to find the one you had up on the screen earlier to retweet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So here it is. Yeah. Oh.
AOC is fundraising to help people in the relief, while Ted Cruz is fundraising to help himself.
yeah,
Yeah,
I saw
it's really
AOC
disgusting.
raised $1 million tonight. I think she
That's
said.
great.
She did.
That's great. Yeah. Well, Ed and Bree, thank you so much. And
I see
you
your
guys,
kids. They're so
where?
cute.
Where? I want to see. I want to see. I know. That's
I'll DM it to you.
what- okay, DM me.
Oh, my little monsters.
4. That's so hard. It's so yeah.
It's never boring.
Cutie pies. Oh my goodness. Yes, I can see which one had COVID. He's just a little sleepy, a little tired, but they're so cute.
Oh my god, they're so cute. Wait, hold on. I have to. They're so cute. Hold on.
They are not for sale.
Oh my god. Hold on. Let's see.
You can tell they're sweetie pies.
Oh wait, hold on. Make sure it's not. Where did that go? Okay. Yeah, I can show it. Won't. They're so cute. Hold on.
Just wondering, how do you guys have the bandwidth to have like a long show? That's like
Katie.
stamina right there.
Yeah,
Katie's the one that's here the whole time. We come in and out.
they're there. They're so cute. I don't.
Look
I think
at them.
Insomnia helps.
insomnia. It's also just like insomnia not being. I'm like not in where I usually live. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not interacting with people. I mean, I am with my parents and family friend, but and
I live
dogs.
alone, so this is the only social stimulation I get every day.
Yeah. I'm alone with these 2 cats.
Oh yeah, show your cats. Here, Sam. I'm gonna have to grab. Hold on. Give me
This
20
one has
seconds so I can grab.
been sleeping on me.
Oh, Yeah. During the lights, like no electricity in the house for hours, my kids slept in my room. They literally slept in my bed, in my room. I pulled in this couch from the living room and just put it here, and we all stayed in the same room. I put pillows, on the other side of this curtain to prevent the cold air from coming through. But it was so freakishly funny to hear my kids back and forth banter and joke about what we're going to do after this is over, after COVID is over. And I asked my kids, why are you guys talking so much? And my oldest son said, well, because I'm usually alone in my room. I don't talk to anyone. This is the first time I actually get to interact with people that are not my friends, that are my family. And I thought, oh, how sweet. Can you please go to sleep already? It's 3:00 in the freaking.
Nice try. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Bodie.
Oh, I've seen Bodie in the promo videos, like literally talking.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. So you've spoken before, yeah.
Yeah.
And Sema was one of the stars of the Bernie Bros videos.
I was.
The Bernie Bro video I did.
Yes.
With the mashup, yeah. Yeah, it's. Do you have any tips for people? I mean, I haven't seen any but people are putting together all these tips about how to deal with this crisis. Is there anything in particular?
Well, for the next winter storm, I'm definitely going to fill up more jugs of water, but I filled up my tub on Monday with water in case we ran out of water or in case, the pipes burst. And that water has come in handy quite often. And we got our water back on today, but it was such a low pressure water drip that was coming through that I ended up filling up another big, what do you call those big casseroles? In Spanish, we call them cacerolas, where we cook the stew and the soup in. And I filled it up with water and I heated it up so that we can take a shower.
Wow.
So I was able to take this for your show.
Ironically,
told my kids it's better to live on the farm.
Yeah, I mean, it takes me back. We didn't really the cold is the part to me that is like the most terrifying. But yeah, we used to listen to a lot of. My dad got really into those like scary books on tape. We didn't have internet stuff, but we had cassette tapes and players, and a lot of like D batteries, and we used to lie on the bed like as a family and listen to like scary stories and make like shadow puppets on the ceiling. There was a lot of shadow puppet making. And yeah, to your point, like a lot of intimate conversations end up happening during these moments because there's nothing else to do and everybody's just kind of forced into being together. And I remember it being, obviously inconvenient, but there was I look back now kind of fondly over the time we spent together, less so when the water went out. The water going out you don't realize what a essential thing, clean, running, heated tap water is until that ish goes away. It's because it starts to affect your sense of self, your ability to get clean, obviously your ability to stay hydrated, your ability to cook. We had an outage once on Thanksgiving, and my dad had to cook the entire meal on this little like a Chico. We called him like a Chico, like a 2-eye burner, like a stovetop emergency burner hooked up to a kerosene thing. But because we lived in a country where it happened all the time, everyone was prepared. Like we had stuff, to use. What's the thing about this is that it's so unexpected because it's Texas. It's not that it's cold; it's that it's cold in Texas. You know what I mean? It's very bad. And I feel like it's bad in a way that isn't quite being expressed even in the media. Like there's a level of urgency that I'm not seeing conveyed. And frankly, Sema, the narrative that you told tonight is the most urgent and impactful kind of description of events that I've even heard so far. So I thank you for that.
It's also because a lot of these people haven't had that happen, right? Even to describe to another person
right.
what it is like. A lot of people have never experienced it. It's like you were saying, you know, when I was visiting my family, a lot of my family lives in Kibera, and there's not like electricity in parts where they're staying or consistent water, and like people can understand that and not, and it is like a very different thing to experience it. And similarly here, people can hear there's no water, or that the pipes have burst, or people don't have consistent electricity or heat, and not really understand, right? It's distant. It feels very distant, I think.
Ed, how am I just putting together that you're Kenyan?
I think a lot of people think I'm Nigerian because of my last name.
No, Angweso sounds Kenyan now that I'm looking.
Yeah, no, yeah. When you know, you know, right?
I'm like, just never even thought about it.
Are you Kenyan?
No, we just lived there for 6 years.
Oh,
Their
that's
parents
nice.
were teachers.
Ah, okay. I
Yeah, at the international at ISK.
see. Oh.
Yeah,
Have you been back?
There's-
Have you gone?
not since 2001. My mom worked for the UN for many years, and she would go back almost every year because their region was East Africa until she left the UN a couple years ago. So she reports back about how much it's changed, and I've like watched some like video clips and stuff, and it's a very different place now. Do you go back often?
I went for the first time in 2019. One of the best moments of my life.
Since when? When was the last time you were there before?
That was the first time I ever went. Saw
Oh.
my family. Was there. It was amazing. I really loved it. I was hoping to go before the pandemic hit. And I didn't get to go, and both my grandparents passed right before. So
Sorry.
I'll probably try to go as soon as all of this ends.
Do you speak Swahili or anything else?
Swahili is my first language, so I understand it perfectly, but I can't speak it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And Sema, can you tell people where you're from, where you grew up?
Oh, is not any specific place I grew up that I can say I've lived there for, ever. Coming from a migrant family background, it was moving from Florida all the way to Michigan, staying in Virginia, down south, Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama. So if it was citrus season in Florida, we'd go there. If it was apple season, Michigan. If it was tobacco, well, let's just say that I've moved around a lot as a kid. So I don't have a place necessarily where I have roots, but I'm born in Houston, and Texas is my home. And hopefully we'll be home for a while until this place floods. As far as another winter storm, we definitely need to be more prepared and buy more terracotta pots and some bricks and candles, because apparently that warms up the house pretty good if you light it the right way.
Terracotta
There's
pots.
been a lot of amazing. Yeah,
That's a trick
apparently.
I heard about. From
Yes. Yeah, you. I guess terracotta pot is a good. I don't know, heat conductor, or just like emitting the heat when it's concentrated underneath a candle, and it just heats it and radiates heat everywhere in the room. I don't have terracotta pots. What I have is some small pools that I filled with soil, and I planted tomatoes which have frozen over, and eggplants which have frozen over. So there's that. I do have a fire pit in the backyard, but it's not safe to bring inside the house because of carbon monoxide poisoning. I don't know what other ways people can stay safe and warm other than the government to do its damn job and upgrade the energy grid and not have it monopolized under a corporate nonprofit that is literally placed with board members that come from the fossil fuel industry.
Yeah, I'm already trying to queue up some episodes about municipalities and monopolies, and there's like a water grid guy at Current Affairs, and there's a bunch of like a whole conversation about liability that I want to do, corporate immunity, both about the nursing home stuff and this energy stuff, which is to me like the the whole thing is about the fact that none of these people are ever forced to internalize any of the risks. The fact that they constantly do this stuff and there's no accountability is why everything is terrible in the world. If we had a system that could actually account for the risks that all of these polluters and stuff are putting out into the world and force them to pay for it, they wouldn't do the thing because it would put them out of business. It would be too costly. And so we have all of these inefficient systems because our legal system is structured so that there are all these accountability outlets. So there's no strict liability, right? You have to prove causation in a way that's impossible because you can't put a value on lives in a way that actually is accurate. You can't trace every chemical. You can't prove that I got cancer because of the leak versus I was just going to get cancer. They make it intentionally difficult instead of having a strict liability standard that would enable them to have the onus on them first and foremost. And so
do other countries have that? Are there countries where there are strict liability?
No, but there are moments in our country where we do apply strict liability.
And
so
then
for
they make
very
movies
hazardous
about it.
materials, for instance, we've decided as a society, okay, if you're going to ship nuclear waste, then if anything happens, it's on you. And the idea is if you are the one in control, you're the one. The people who have the most ability to prevent a spill should be the ones that have to pay if there's a spill. So you can't spill it because I drive the train, but it really wasn't my fault. It was the track was broken. Oh, I built the track, but it wasn't my fault because your engine, you were driving too fast. Oh, it's the driver then. I'm not liable as the train company. The driver is individually liable and he doesn't have any money, so nobody can actually get anything out of him. He's just a person. So that's how they keep. So what we've decided in some of these instances is okay, well, this is a very hazardous thing you're doing. Whatever happens, you're liable. And that makes everybody have to act right.
But why? What makes it? Why does that get decided in some cases and not others?
Case law, precedent, court. They've just decided in some instances. So there are people I talk about him a lot. My favorite law professor, John Hanson, he pushed for there's different liability standards. Like contributory negligence. There's different moments that we decide how to split and share liability, just depending on legal precedent. And he pushes for more of a blanket. I think it's called enterprise liability, if I recall correctly. I'm sorry, I haven't been in law school in 10 years. But, he pushes for a higher standard that would basically allow us to get away from these loopholes. And in environmental law, it's a disaster. Even the EPA, you think the EPA covers all the things? It does not cover all the things. For example, you basically, it regulates point sources. So one of the biggest polluters are these big farms of, animals. And all the runoff, antibiotics, waste product, all the stuff that's coming out of these farms. But they fixed it, because lobbying, so that the EPA regulates point sources. So basically, if the water goes into a channel, like a tube or a pipe, they'll go around and check it and see if you're polluting. But if you make really sure there's no ditches or pipes or any concentrated runoff and everything just kind of trickles out into the ether, then you can get away with murder. All kind of crap like this. Everywhere.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's
no.
Sorry. But this is the thing. It's all connected. It's all the same thing. It all comes down to this accountability failure.
Right.
What are we supposed to do? Just sit here and say things are terrible? Things are terrible.
No, yeah,
and maybe Ted Cruz won't get reelected. And that's the best we can hope for. That's not the kind of systemic. It's not enough. You know what I mean? It's not enough.
Well, it's not going to work either. Yeah, there has to be. Yeah.
Sorry.
But can't they always pay for? Isn't the point that I guess it has to be a combination, right? I mean, Ed, you also, you didn't go to law school. Did you go to law school? It doesn't matter, but you write a lot about tech stuff. So yeah.
I think tech monopolies is a similar problem, right?
And Sema, jump in anytime because you are in a place where you have no water and you have 4 kids. So please feel free to.
Well, Eddie can finish what he's saying, and then I'll jump in.
Our society would be a lot more better if it wasn't run by corporations, because the structure of a corporation is externalize all the risk and internalize all the profit and socialize it in any way, whichever. And you see that here. You see that in California with PG&E, right? A similar thing where they neglect the grid for a decade, and then what happens? It causes massive forest fires, and then a fight breaks out between who gets paid out first, the victims, the bondholders, or the shareholders, and not how the fuck are we going to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Right.
Anytime you see a corporation with a significant amount of power, corporations get their power and their autonomy at the expense of other people's autonomy and agency. And so, things would just sensibly be better in a lot of these arenas if we found ways to, either break them up or undermine them. But we have, as Bree was talking about, we just have a society where we can't do that, right? When you do wrong, you're shielded from any sort of accountability from it. And we also have a political system and a legal system that is just so deeply rancid and corrupt. And the political culture is just so deeply immoral that they're just fine with all this sort of stuff happening over and over and over and over again, and people's lives being destroyed for no reason other than money.
And designed that way. Like the whole point of most of corporate law is just even if you are successful in your lawsuit, the whole point of establishing the corporation is to establish liability, like personal to avoid personal liability. Like the whole point is to say that there's a wall between me and the corporation, a liability shield. There's a corporate veil between me and my individual actions in this institution. So you can sue the institution, but you're not going to be able to get through. The law says if you do this in your best business judgment, if you did this in the business judgment rule, if the third party can say in the abstract that this is what a reasonable business person would have done in this case, then you're not liable. Well, what the heck is a reasonable business judgment? Whatever the last old white guy has been doing and saying for years. It's a self-perpetuating morass. Yeah, right. It means nothing. It's like when they say, what would a reasonable cop do in this situation? Right.
Yeah.
Shoot the guy. The answer is always shoot the guy, and there's no accountability.
So something to add to that, that specifically happens in Texas is in order to prevent a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit against a specific corporation, let's say, for example, Valero, which Valero is emitting hydrogen cyanide into our community for the past 8 years and had to apply for a retroactive permit to allow it to do that now, but go back 8 years and not held liable. So the state files a lawsuit on behalf of the people and charges them a fine of $1,500. They pay the fines, they get the citation, and it gets reported, but the company can go on business as usual and the permits will go through. But the reason why the state of Texas does that on behalf of the people is so that the people do not damage the profitability of said company like Valero. And Valero has continuously blamed the residents for getting cancer because it's possibly something in their genes or family history. But here we are, 100 years, that same, company that has now been taken over, Valero, has been emitting these toxic chemicals, including benzene, into a Black and brown immigrant community. And those community members don't have any way of reporting it because sometimes it's their immigration status or because they don't have the funds to fight it, because it could take years to fight something like that. But when you have a corporation with that kind of money and that kind of control over a government actor like Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton and Dan Patrick, who appoint people to an oversight government entity like the TCEQ, and then they don't do or conduct the oversight, we have situations like we have on a daily basis in our neighborhoods, constant emissions of toxic chemicals that continuously erode our communities, our healthcare, our health in general, our education system, and there is no accountability whatsoever. And here we are again, toxic chemicals, COVID, winter storm, energy grid failure, societal collapse. What the hell do we do? Who is held liable? And chances are nobody's going to be held liable, but it's going to cost them an election. And if we don't get our shit together, we are not going to be able to win those elections, however many they may be, from from judges who decide who gets evicted and who doesn't during COVID. Because right now we have judges sitting on the bench that are evicting families, even though we have the CDC moratorium in place. We have people that are being forced to go back to work or forced to go to school and no one's being held accountable in the schools, not even the nurses or the school administrators forcing people to go to work or to school. So who's liable? Are they going to blame it on us, the people? Is the school going to take responsibility for spreading COVID knowingly when there's kids that are spreading it and it's not contact, it's airborne? This is continuously going to be, like what Bree said, perpetual systemic issues across the board.
And that's what this nursing, to go back to your earlier interview, Katie, like that liability waiver stuff with the nursing homes, that's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
That's the tip, because so many people are being dictated to put themselves in unsafe situations in this moment, when we all know they don't have to. And when the cases start coming down about this, it's gonna be wild. And they know that all of these companies and the government itself is enormously exposed. So they're going to be working overtime to make sure that there are laws in the books to make sure that you and I cannot sue no matter what happens to us because they forced us into this situation. Mark my words, it's the tip of the iceberg, especially in Texas. Tort reform, everybody remember that? The big like fear-mongering thing in the 90s that Republicans were super into. Tort reform was about this. It wasn't about people suing McDonald's and everything that they wanted to make it about. Tort reform was about this very issue, which is that corporations are out here killing people nonstop as their business model. Yeah. Their business model requires them to create these inefficiencies that come down on us, and they aren't profitable if they ever have to pay for what they've done. Yeah. So tort reform is all about making sure corporations never have to pay about what they've done. And by the way, the woman who sued McDonald's had first-degree burns down to her pelvis. Her skin melted off of her pubic area, this old woman, and she deserved every penny that the initial judgment gave her. And they took back all that money, and she didn't get it. And the judgment that she got actually equated to, the judgment she got was 1 cent of 1 day's worth of every McDonald's coffee sale. So they acted like she got this windfall. It was a lot of money because McDonald's makes a lot of money, but it was like $1 or 1 cent. It was like 1 day's worth of basically McDonald's coffee sales that they gave her in her judgment. And that was a poster child for why we shouldn't have tort reform. Are you kidding me? This should be a moment where Democrats are hitting this kind of stuff hard, recouping lost territory on these kinds of issues.
But they'd have to not be beholden, not to sound like a cliche, right? But wouldn't they have to not be? I mean, what do we have to do to make it so that their cost is too great? Because they're also
all
beholden.
Of them. They're the revolving door. They work at all these companies. Look at Kamala and her husband and all of these.
Of course. They have other companies that they work for that also just kill people.
Right, but so what do we do? Not to sound like naive about it, but like, what's the thing that we do then?
One thing on my show that we talk about with tech companies is that, there comes a certain point with certain forms of technology and companies that they don't exist, and people within them or at the frontier of them have to sabotage them or just like start undermining them. It's like, for good examples with Amazon Ring, Amazon Ring, pervasive surveillance threat that poisons communities, atmosphere with snitching and racist surveillance. There are lots of ways to handle it. You can do litigation, you could do suing your homeowners association, but also honestly at the end of the day, what you will likely have to do is just break them, and in many instances the things that people have to do are to risk themselves for others, right? Through collective actions and through solidarity, to halt some of the more egregious shit. Because otherwise, we only have a few years for a lot of things to change, and there's no progress being made on them. And in fact, the momentum feels like it's going the other way because there's billions of dollars at stake, and they're not going to give it up. I don't know, things just feel increasingly dire and depressing and hopeless. But they're not, right?
They're not.
There are things in our
moment where the message that might otherwise fall on deaf ears is going to be better heard because there's no escaping the reality of the situation, right? And it's hard to say this in a way that doesn't seem like, craven, but like this is a moment to exploit. Like this is a moment where we should be advancing all of the asks, all of the demands, all of the asks of the Bernie campaign, all of the policies, and more, because that wasn't going far enough, because that was designed before this political moment emerged even. And the fact that Democrats are like bargaining themselves down over student debt and $2,000 checks and all of the stuff in this moment, instead of taking leaps ahead in terms of what we're asking for and making Republicans stand behind saying, no, we don't want to help you. And I know it's that our own our own politicians are corporate and corrupted as well. It's time to primary them. It's time to say we're not voting for you in midterms if you don't do this. It's time to have demonstrations to the extent that we can and do it safely in the streets. And it's time to be very concrete and start making demands and not asks. I'm tired of this. God bless BLN. I don't mean this, you're doing a lot of good work as well. But that letter that they wrote, that please Biden, may I letter they wrote after he was elected, nicely asking for things. Did you or did you not just get him elected in Georgia?
I didn't read that letter. What was that? What was that?
Well, and Sema, what about? Can you share what from the Poor People's Campaign? Is there any? Tips and takeaways from that, or is this all?
I think the Poor People's Campaign has been on that page of pushing Biden and holding town halls and virtual rallies to compel the public to pressure Joe Biden and to insist that he gets behind the $15 minimum wage, which we all agree that it's not enough. It's not going to be enough in 5 years. It's not enough now. It wasn't enough back in 2007. But it is some progress, and that's something that the Poor People's Campaign, from the emails I've seen, are getting behind, as well as other issues on their platform, specifically healthcare, has one thing that they have been advocating for. Dealing with the COVID crisis, we need real impactful policies that are going to turn this thing around. Right now, I saw that Bree tweeted out something that, Biden isn't the president that we need for this crisis in this moment, or something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, of course. But I absolutely agree that he is not the president for this moment, for this crisis, to address the injustices that are happening top down, because he was the cause. He has been the cause of these issues for 40 years, if not more, along with Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell. These people have collectively screwed us over for the last 4 decades. So how are we going to trust that these people are going to get us out of this situation when they perpetuated this situation 4 decades ago? And once again, reality has endorsed Bernie Sanders' policies. We just need to collectively organize with people on the ground, with organizations, with workers, especially those that are organizing, if I'm not mistaken, in Alabama at the Amazon warehouse. We need to get behind workers that are going on strike and provide mutual aid for them and help them get through these tough times, because they're taking a stand for a reason. They're taking a stand because enough is enough. And just like any good organizer, we need to organize not just for them, but for any upcoming elections, and continue to not just push the candidates, but push the policies that we want implemented, and threaten them with real tangible threats that we're going to occupy your offices, we're going to occupy all your phone lines, we're going to bombard your fax machines, we're going to hold you completely incapable of doing your job so you can do your damn job.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm going to go, because it is like
Thank you so
1:49
much.
where you guys are.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys having me on, and please continue to just share those links for the Texas Mutual Aid groups. Y'all guys stay safe out there and don't get COVID, and be safe.
Keep in touch. And
Thank you so
we'll
much.
tweet out clips.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. And I'm gonna push on to have a little
Yeah.
pastry since I didn't have dinner. and Chef
yeah,
Olaf.
food. I
I had
should
a
eat
slice of
food.
pizza during. I had a slice of pizza when I was off camera at one point. So
I feel like I'm gonna cook and then sleep at 3.
that's so intense. Though imagine having kids, like and going through that, and like having to have a game face or
It's you know, I I feel like the urgency level always is like a 1, and at the best of times should be an 8, and now should be a 20.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand how everyone's not screaming from the rooftops. And the only time I saw anybody being really urgent in the last little bit is around the insurrection. And that's not to say that that's not a perfectly fine thing to be urgent about. But when I see that you have it in you, the capacity to talk about things as though they're life and death, and like, okay, I just want to see you bring that energy to Sema, who's sitting up there in a house with 4 kids, one of which has COVID, each of which goes to a different school, and who's being asked to circulate it all to every other school district in Texas. This is insane. Sorry, I'm not trying to stress her out, so I'm like trying to be chill. But
right,
like,
but
this is
she's gone,
outrageous.
So I mean, if you're watching, hi Sema, don't turn the volume off. Trigger warning,
like,
Sema.
come
on,
oh come on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I gotta eat something.
All right, go eat something.
Because I get a little hypoglycemic. I would say something I shouldn't say, but you guys are both delightful. Ed, Kwaheri, my friend. See you on the flip side. Katie.
Bye. Thank you so much
Goodbye.
for coming on.
In English.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Oh, see you later.
Bye, Ed. Thanks so much. Bye, Gobi. Gobi.
Nancy.
Nancy. So cute. Oh my god. Wow, guys, I didn't think it'd be this long. But, I thought we'd have 2 parts, and then that second part kept, was great. And then wanted to have Sema on, and so yeah, we have a lot of stuff to go over next time. Anyway, everyone, I should, I'll put a link to this. Yeah. Sorry, I'm so tired right now because it's 1:52. All right. The Jewish goodbye, yeah. I'm good. I gotta go to sleep. And, yeah. I could go on and on, but I have to be productive tomorrow. Yeah. Bodhi's, okay, if I didn't get to your super chat, we need a program. Oh, wait. Hold on, I have to thank people. This is when, hold on. Please become Patreon supporters. I gotta say, please become Patreon supporters. And I want to just very quickly thank people who did become Patreon supporters. Is this a terrible way to go, to end? No, I'm going to thank them because, hold on. Since Sunday, okay? Because we didn't. Oh, wow, this is great. Oh, my. A lot of people. So, I'm going to thank, ready? Here are the people who joined Patreon since Sunday. I'm going to thank you. And by the way, if you're going to get your mugs, those are happening. So just don't worry about it. All right. Brian, Kat, NS, Shauna, Samuel, Eddie, Melissa, Mary, Evan, Sarah, Steve, Dana, Forrest, Chris, Ed, David, Solvig, Sarah, Richard, Brandon, Mark, Eduardo, Mike, Jay, John, Linda, Cheryl. All right. Guys, thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, of course, if you can spare anything, it's so hard. I know, I understand. So, totally get it. Yeah. And thank you so much, Brad. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Bodhi. Thank you, JB. Thank you all the super chatters and anyone who who super chat I missed. Please, I don't know, somehow tell me. And also, please, oh no, I can't do Chomsky now. Also, I should do Calm. You know the app Calm? The Calm app? I should do the Calm app, but for like Mark's ASMR, I guess. Leftist ASMR. But, I was going to say something. I can't remember what it was. Crap. I can't even remember. If I missed your thingy, then please let me know. Or, oh, I know. Anyone watching here, if you know how to do that thing where you download my comments, please do that. Because I need the download so I can cut part of this out and yeah, it's the thing. I got it. Yeah. We may have to take some of this. Oh, wait, you sent 2 super chats. Did I read any of them? Oh, yeah, hit the like button, guys. I know, sleep deprivation. All right. Oh, my gosh. All right. Oh, thank you, Phil. Thank you, everyone who came on. Thank you, Independent. Oh, this is so embarrassing. I'm so tired that I can't even. Independent News Left. Independent Left News. Brad, you know what this is. Everyone follow Brad also on Twitter. What's your name on Twitter? I'm sorry. I'm so tired right now. Let's see. Also follow Maria. Hold on. Bradley R. Bloom. Bradley R. Bloom. Yeah, guys, what the hell? You gotta like. All right. Night, everyone. See you Sunday. Oh, guess who we're having on Sunday? Omar Wasso and Samuel Moyne to talk about impeachment, stuff like that. Yeah. All right. Bye, guys. Oh, rate and review. Guys, subscribe. Subscribe to the show. Oh, look, that's a cool effect. Subscribe. Hit subscribe. And then the bell. Anyway, yeah, I can't do these marathon streams too often. Just, the day I get my vaccine. So stupid. All right. Bye, everyone. Remember what you do. Again, you subscribe. Sundays, Thursdays, 7 p.m. usually. Okay, bye.